Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Here.
Trustee Dempsey.
Present.
Clerk Borba here. Trustee Dorshevitz.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by John Stewart. Would you mind? Would you mind? Thank you, John. Item C is the approval of the agenda. Comments or questions by the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I
Mr.
move we
Heitman.
approve the agenda as written.
Motion is made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Dempsey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Comments, questions by the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019.
Second.
Is there a second? Second by Trustee Kermy. All those in favor of the approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item E, public comments and questions. This is not your only opportunity during the evening to comment on matters of public import. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting as well. All we ask is that you observe the 3-minute rule for public comments and questions at this time. Anybody? Yeah, sure. Just come up and state your name and address. Okay, you got to go up there.
Get them taken care of.
Great. My name is Lisa Howard. I'm the Executive Director at the Plymouth Community Arts Council here in Plymouth. I live at 48525 Joy Road in Canton Township. Again, my name is Lisa Howard, and I've served as the Executive Director at the Plymouth Community Arts Council for the past 6 years. I'm here representing a committee made up of both PCAC volunteers and members of the Great Lakes Art Foundation. Our two nonprofits are working together to bring engaging public arts to our community in the form of an outdoor sculpture initiative. We communicated by letter and have spoken informally with some of the township's trustees about our vision. We would like to take this opportunity to be on record with an invitation to engage in some more formal discussions about the many benefits, including financial, of a community-based public art initiative. This would both align with the goals of the township's Park and Rec Master Plan and the mission of the PCAC. That would be to provide quality arts experiences for all members of our community, and in turn, foster artistic excellence. We bring this matter up now because we understand that this evening's agenda includes a discussion about the triangle-shaped parcel of public land at the intersections of Powell and Arbor Trail and Beck Roads. This beautiful property and the adjacent public spaces, the Township Park at McClumpha, the golf course, and sports fields pose tremendous opportunity to become a focal point and source of pride for our community as they relate to outdoor sculptures. We invite you, Supervisor Heisey, the trustees, Planner Laura Haw, and of course any other interested citizens to our PCAC location on Sheldon Road for a more formal presentation of our plans at your convenience. The PCAC itself has a 50-year legacy of bringing the arts to students and residents in our community. During that time, we collaborated with the Plymouth Canton Community Schools to create public art with an exciting Artist in Residence program. Stone carvings were created at the Township Park during the mid-1980s by Plymouth Canton High School students and the sculptor Peter Rockwell, yes, the son of Norman Rockwell. The community is still interacting with these sculptures over 30 years later. The rock creatures can still be seen today, both in the park and in Plymouth family photo albums, mine included. Again, we ask the township to leverage the resources available within our community to incorporate into this Powell and Arbor Trail green space our vision of engaging public arts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please stick around for the discussion on the park concept. Anyone else? Yes. Okay.
I'm June Kiercutter.
Pick up the little mic.
I'm June Kiercutter, and I own a small marketing communications and advertising firm, and I live at 46920 North Territorial in the township. My parents moved to Plymouth when I was 6 months old, and when I was 5, they moved to Canton Township. I attended Plymouth Salem High School. Well, at the time it was Salem, go Rocks. So I am a longtime resident of the area. My parents set an example for community service. Mom was on the Plymouth Canton Community School Board for a number of years. Then she became a Canton Township trustee. Eventually, she became the Canton Township treasurer. My dad was on the Canton Township Planning Commission for several years. During their time of service at the township, the plans were made for what is now Heritage Park. There are 2 sculptures in Heritage Park donated by my family and friends as a memorial to my father. And my middle sister was one of the high school students that worked with Peter Rockwell during the Artisan Residence Program. Incidentally, the bronze sculptures that are at Heritage Park were also designed and created by Peter Rockwell for my father's memorial. So I like art, and I really like outdoor sculpture, but I'm also a business person. Our vision for the Outdoor Sculpture Initiative at the parcel that Lisa described is purposeful and enlightening. Many of the artists would be Michigan-based. The sculptures would serve as markers for hiking trails connecting the golf course, the Township Park at McClumpha, and the adjacent subdivisions. We would incorporate creative benches so moms with strollers can have a place to rest. The sculptures would provide a backdrop for engagement photos and family portraits. They would offer a welcome distraction for parents waiting for their children who might be at soccer practice in the adjacent fields. They become the starting point for an area business looking for a creative place to have an outdoor brainstorming meeting. The Public Arts Initiative is also an opportunity to reignite the community's legacy of Artisan Residence Program. We envision artists conceptualizing work with students and even working with residents to actually bring those concepts to life, similar to what Peter Rockwell did 35 years ago. All of these elements start to paint a picture of the vision that we have to transform that public land at Powell, Ann Arbor Trail, and Beck Road into a real heartbeat for our community. We really believe that this is Plymouth Township's time to shine. Northville and Plymouth have downtowns. Canton has Heritage Park. Plymouth Township has a real opportunity now to create something even grander, a true destination of arts within the broader Detroit suburban area. Our collaborative group has the resources to partner with Plymouth Township to really make this happen. We have the fundraising experience to generate dollars for the sculptures. We have team members who have secured insurance for similar projects around the country. In fact, one of our team members led the Public Arts Initiative in Palm Springs, California. Some may be familiar with.
You are over time at this point, but if you would like, you can come back when we start talking about the park proposal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
I have one suggestion, is there is a park in Crystal Mountain in Thompsonville, Michigan, an outdoor art park. You may be able to get some ideas, lessons learned from them or by visiting it. Yes.
Anyone else at this point? Okay, let's move on to item F1. This is the appointments to the Plymouth Township Environmental Leadership Commission. As you know, Board, we approved the ordinance back on June 11th, creating the commission, and we received almost 20, Sue, about 20 applications were submitted during the summer months, and it was a very difficult process for me to go through the resumes and the background information and make these recommendations to you. So tonight, Bob, if you could hit the resolution there. Okay, so just scroll down a little bit more. And this, because this is a new board, we're with staggered terms, we're going to do what we did similar to the Historic District Commission, where we appointed all of the members at once in one resolution for the years indicated therein. So at this point, I'm going to go through the names and just ask everybody to stand up when your name is called so we can put a name with a face if we haven't already. So Anita Yeager, okay, Marianne McLaren, Joanne Lamar, Angel Price, Andrew Wolf, Ashley Binyan Zuccaro, is she here? Didn't think so. Cheryl Board, no. Linda Bartarian, did I say that right? Is that good? And Robert Prohashka. Okay. So these are the individuals who I am recommending for the commission. You guys can sit down. There will be no, I don't think there's any need for a inquiry or a Senate hearing or anything like that. So at this point, I just would entertain any questions or comments from the board. Chuck.
What happens 1 year from now? Can these people get reappointed?
Yes.
And what was the methodology for selecting who got 3, who got 2, whatever?
Well, I had to use some my own personal judgment and recommendation. Basically, if you look here, the people who tend to be in the longer terms of 3 or 2 years are the people who have been part of the old committee that was part of the Citizens Advisory Council. There was an environmental committee, and typically the folks probably from, from item 4 up were more prominent in that group. And that indicates a desire to serve, staying power, and interest. But in all cases, the resumes were, or the forms that they filled out were the best indicator for me. But it was not an easy choice. I mean, we have some extremely talented and dedicated people in the community who want to serve, and it was not an easy process. So, any other comments from the board? Very good. Then I am looking for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-09-10-78, appointing the initial 9 members of the Plymouth Township Environmental Leadership Commission for the terms specified therein.
Motion has been made by Trustee Heitman, seconded by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Now, you folks are free to stay, although if you notice, there's kind of an environmental theme to tonight's meeting, so you may want to stick around. What we're going to do is Sue Brams, Sue, just stand up and wave. Everybody knows Sue. And what we'll do is Sue will get in touch with you guys in the next couple days, and then what we'll do is we'll set up an initial meeting. That'll just be an organizational meeting. Jerry can, or someone from the clerk's office can swear you in, and then we'll get started. And I'll be at that first meeting as well, and certainly board members can attend, just so that we can get things moving. Okay? Well, congratulations, and thank you very much for your service. All right, next we are going to take up item F2. This is the tree planting program or plan for 2020 and 2021. Laura Hawk cannot be with us tonight. She is on her way. She has another board meeting to attend in another community. Such is the life of the consultant, right? So we have multiple folks handling this issue, and Laura is the one who put this chart together. And really, what it is, we've got the opportunity over the next couple years to do quite a bit in terms of tree planting throughout the township. And I just want to follow the chart that Laura has put together here, and I'll start with what we call the Wabasto contribution. And as you recall, when Wabasto came in, they made a promise to purchase and install 151 trees. I don't know why it wasn't 150. It's 151. So 151 trees of various types, which they have also indicated that they would provide. We would look for a planting in 2020. And then, Bob, if you could just scroll up a little bit. The intended potential location would be the proposed Gulfview Neighborhood Park, which we'll be talking about shortly. Next is what's known as the Relief Program. And Joan Whitty is here. And Joan, if you could just come up and give us a briefing on what that's all about. Joan has been helping us out with this project now for a better part of a year, and we appreciate your service as well in helping make this possible.
Thanks, Nat. I was a member of the Environmental Committee, the Citizens Committee, where this idea started, and I took on the role of saying that I would help coordinate it. Now that there's a formal commission, I'm willing to support them and continue to do it whatever the commission decides. But at this point, in late spring, we applied for a relief grant, which we did receive, for 15 trees. So it's actually 15 trees, not 13. And we worked with Supervisor Heisey's office and Sarah Vissel to get a grant as well from the Bausch Group to help pay for the planting of the trees and some of the maintenance as well. Plymouth Township is also providing a lot of in-kind services to help make the planting happen. So this will be at McClumpa Park, all around the ball fields. There is no shade for fans around the ball fields. Though shade is not the only reason to plant trees, it certainly is a good one. There is a lot of value to planting trees, from the rain canopy collection to erosion to carbon control. And we are going to plant hybrid elms and swamp oaks, perhaps some river birches. That's still to be determined at this time. To increase the survival rate, they are larger trees, 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. And we invite the trustees to join. We actually need 40 volunteers because this is a community service project. 40 volunteers to help with the tree planting. And the date is October 19th. We will start at 8:45 and we will end by noon, and there will be a press release and media invited as well. We've had a great reaction outreach-wise. There are about 7 Boy and Girl Scout troops that would like to participate as well because they can get their nature-focused badges for helping to plant trees. And a project forester will be running the program. They will teach everybody how to plant the trees and guide the process to make sure that the investment by the township is one that will grow and provide many returns in the future.
Okay. So the Relief Program is, who's behind that effort?
The Relief Program, they are a nonprofit group based in Ann Arbor, and they are a consortium of individuals who are invested in the environment.
Okay. So, the tree planting has been coordinated with the Little League teams that utilize those fields?
Yes, the parks, as well as the park director. Park director has been very involved. DPW has been very involved. The league teams also were consulted. They're very pleased to have the trees put around the ball fields. They're looking forward to it, and they will also be invited to volunteer and help if they so desire.
Great. And Patrick, we'll have to make sure that Ms. Digg is contacted. I know we've had issues out at the park before where we had a contractor for the township blow through cable wires when he was trying to install a fence. So
yes, Relief has sent a whole process with roles and responsibilities, which Sarah has, and that is one of the key points on there.
Okay, very good. Let's see, any questions? Chuck?
I wanted to stress the aftercare and watering, which is often neglected. We planted many trees in the township and had a very, very low survival rate. You can see some of them remain on the far west end of this triangle park we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been girdled by the lawn cutting crews over the years and just were not watered initially. So they got a very bad start. So we need to
Part of the funding, from what I understand, is supposed to have gator bags. Those are the bags you see around new trees that hold the water, that help ensure that they're properly watered, because you're right, it will kill them. In our discussions, I will say there was concern voiced by the DPW about ongoing maintenance, but that's really the trimming and working together with the park to make sure that they don't damage the trees as they're growing.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next round of trees will be coming from the Alliance of Rouge Communities, which was created back in 2005. If you're ever in my office, you'll see the bill signed by the governor. That was sponsored by former State Senator Bruce Patterson and was put together by many of us here in Southeast Michigan. And the ARC has agreed to provide us with 50 trees. 50 trees is what we have requested of varying height and caliper. They would be delivered in the spring of 2020. And we've identified several areas where these trees could be installed. One is in the middle of the ball diamonds at Township Park. That is a rather challenging area. It can be both sandy and swampy in various locations. We looked at one point of putting maybe some volleyball courts in there, sand volleyball, but the drainage just would not allow it. So we would look to put some trees in there as well as a place for people to relax while their kids are playing a game. Another area that was identified by Laura Haw were trees right across the street here in front of Allen School. That's a rather bleak area in that easement, and it'd be nice to see some trees in there. We also have a request for trees in Brentwood Park. Brentwood Park is a very small neighborhood park in what I would call old Lake Point area, the original Lake Point. And that area is it's very well kept by the township and by the neighborhood, and they've had a request for some additional trees as well. And one of the things we stress is that there's no guarantee that you're going to get your request fulfilled, but we are trying to find homes for all of these trees that we're going to be acquiring. And then we've had a request for 20 trees from the Trillium Woods subdivision. Trillium Woods has lost a lot of trees in the last few years, and again, that has been a request that we will take a look at. And then 3 trees for replacement in Miller Park, because we've had some damage, storm damage over the years. So we can request a lot more than 50 trees if we want to, but right now we believe that we will have an overabundance of trees that will be coming our way in the next couple of years. So those are the trees that would be coming from the ARC.
So how does a subdivision go about getting trees? Because 20 trees for one subdivision is quite generous.
I believe these would be more in easement areas that would be viewed by the public as well. So, I mean, we would have to determine where those would be. This is just sort of a draft estimate right now.
All right, so we will get some input in that and we can talk about it.
Sure, and I mean, if you know of other locations that you can come across, I know we've had other requests at Township Park as well. Well, which would be handled in part by the ARC project as well. So, we're flexible on that.
And your cover memo says that this could be a project for the new commission?
It could certainly be a project for the new Environmental Leadership Commission.
At least this particular one, since it's not to be implemented until next spring, right? But the relief program, that's going to happen next month.
Relief is going to happen right now.
Yeah.
The ARC trees are next year, so that would be a great project for the Environmental Leadership Commission to do additional investigations, seek more public input, but we certainly have a lot of trees at our disposal if we need them. And, we're not putting these in somebody's backyard. These are trees that would be accessible to the public and viewable by the public. Okay, I'm going to move on to the tree fund. This is the money that we receive from various projects in the township. that have done projects and maybe have done some tree removal. We have asked them to put money into what we call the tree fund, very clever name. So right now we've got about $20,000, and we expect to have another $20,000 next year due to new projects that are coming online. So that we are looking to do, what we are looking to do there is set up a residential tree program in 2020. The township has had one in the past. I believe Jim Anowitz was instrumental in putting together a very comprehensive tree planting program for residents. The plan on that would be for a resident to apply. They would be provided with the tree, not free, but they'd have to chip in some amount of money, and then they would be responsible, working through the township, to plant the tree. We're looking at trees that would be in easements. And as you recall, after the ash borer disease, we lost a lot of trees throughout southeast Michigan. So tree planting programs are very important to help restore some of those areas that are still, my neighborhood included, that are still blighted from the ash borer disease. But that would be, again, a voluntary program where we would seek the residents to come to us to ask for a tree. And it's been done here.
The other side of that, I mean, there was a residential tree program some time ago, so it was basically buy in bulk, right, or a bulk price. But the other side of that is a tree removal program, because a lot of people can't afford to remove. Removing a dead tree can cost you $500 or more. A lot of people just can't afford it.
Trees in the easements, okay, between the sidewalk and the street are still the responsibility of Wayne County. And I know Jerry and I see a lot of, I've had Wayne County come and take down trees in the easements.
Really?
This year.
That's why I think we can probably do a better job of, if people have trees that need to be trimmed or removed, we can help them by motivating the forestry department of Wayne County to at least get it on the list, because they have very limited resources. But we could probably work on
we can do that.
being a motivator to get some of those trees. I know tree trimming in many neighborhoods along the curb needs work.
Yeah.
I imagine it's a low priority, but at least getting it on the list, and the forestry department of Wayne County will know that it's a want.
Yeah.
And it's not only removal of the tree, but it's disposal of the tree that they won't take it away. They won't take the branches away.
Well, the county will.
Wayne County will.
The trash pickup won't.
Oh, no, no. I mean, well, it depends on the size, obviously, but Wayne County will eventually take down a tree that's clearly dead or dying, and they'll remove the whole thing. Stump grinding, you might have to do that on your own, but take what you can get. I mean, it's a miracle when we can get the county to come out and do something like that. I think their forestry division is 2 men in a truck. That's about it. So, but the county does have to provide. You do have to get permission from the county to plant a tree in your easement, and we can make that happen rather quickly. Okay, but we can make that happen. So, anyway.
Is this money in it? I know it's not a lot, but in an interest-bearing account, Mark?
I don't know.
It earned 34 cents
Well,
last year.
You might earn a couple $100s worth of interest every year.
I doubt it.
And you could buy a tree with that couple $100.
Well, it's in one of our building department funds. Sherry Pomelchuk knows where that is as part of her computer program. So it's somewhere. We know where it is. Okay, so that in a nutshell is the tree planting program. Any comments or questions? This is what we'd like to do starting in the fall of this year and moving forward. And we'll update you on this. I know Laura is she's sad that she cannot be here tonight for this presentation, but I know she's very personally interested in this and wants to see it successfully completed. And Laura is a township resident too. So, okay, I don't believe this requires any board action. So we're going to move on to item 3. This is the F3. This is the proposal for what I am just temporarily calling Gulfview Park, because it kind of made sense. This is the so-called triangle area. that is bordered by Beck, Ann Arbor Trail, and Powell Roads, and adjacent to Hilltop Golf Course. The subject area is approximately 9 acres, and has been pointed out earlier, it's a focal point of the township. This project would use more than, many of the 150 trees being donated by Wabasto as part of their project. What I would recommend is that Laura Haw, who is a graduate of both MSU and the University of Michigan, so she got us all covered here, I think, that she has many contacts at U of M in their graduate school for urban planning and design and whatnot, and she can get a project put together that would be developed by graduate students at U of M who could put together a design concept for a passive recreational park at this location. And as we all know, as part of that process, we will certainly involve members of the community to weigh in and share their thoughts and ideas. If we could just back down to that aerial there, Bob, just as a refresher, the triangle property, the further you get to Beck Road, it's more of a flatter, sloped, grassy area bounded by trees, mature trees on the south and the northwest. So the plan would be to plant more trees in that grassy area, put some pathways in there, park benches, reflective possibilities for people. To the east, however, Bob, is to the east of the map there. That is more of a wooded area. There's almost like where it says the word net. There is more of an upslope at that point. There's a grassy area, more of a wild grass, natural grass area that then translates into a more wooded area. That wooded area, I think, also has some possibilities, but it would require a financial contribution by us, the board, or maybe a donor, maybe using park money from the county. There's many possibilities, maybe a DNR grant, where we would have to, we'd have to clear a little bit of that. There's a lot of dead tree growth. There's a lot of scrub trees, and it'd be nice to put maybe more of a walking path in there as well and make it more accessible, because right now it's pretty much inaccessible. And the township and the golf course and others have dumped wood debris back there in the past over many years. So, and here's Laura Haw herself. She's made it. So Laura, I met right in the middle of the triangle presentation here. And I've said that you were a graduate of both University of Michigan and Michigan State, so I hope I'm right about that. Correct, good. So we have already talked about the tree planting program, and I blamed you for everything. And so I said that you would be in charge of the whole thing, and no, well, Bob's law, we have to get back on track here. So what we're doing now, Laura, is we're putting up the aerial map of the triangle property, and I've just been describing some of the topography and vegetation issues that we have at the site.
I'm in the wrong spot. Hang on, sorry.
Okay, there it is.
Here we go.
All righty.
Hang on, everybody, hang on.
So once again, the triangle is about 1/3 fairly inaccessible forest and about 2/3 grassy area. So a tree planting plan for this triangle would just be for trees to be scattered around in some kind of format that would complement walking paths, park benches, picnic tables, things of that nature. We would also want to put new trees along Beck Road. And then, Bob, just north of Powell there in the golf course itself, we have had, the golf course operators have also asked for more trees along Beck. So just scoot over, yeah. So we would just like to see some trees there. The golf course has also asked for some other trees around the clubhouse and some other locations that we could figure out later. But that would be the essence of a township park for that location. This would be similar to what we have at Miller or at some of our other smaller neighborhood parks. But it would also be, one of the things we would want to talk about, I'm not saying we're going to do it, is that this would not be a dog park. It would not be a dog park, but it would be a dog-friendly park where you could bring a leashed dog to, as part of your jogging regimen. If you were passing through the area, you could at least stop off there with the dog or walk your dog through that park, which you are not allowed to do in Township Park. And so that would be a policy change that we would want to investigate later on. So that being said, Laura, we also mentioned the fact that you might have some contacts at U of M to bring in some grad students, and anything else you would like to add at this point? Yeah.
You said passive park. What does that mean?
Well, a passive park, go ahead, Laura.
So there's two ways to classify parkland, either as active or passive. Active is usually sports fields, pavilions for gathering events, where passive is more natural in nature, walking paths, no real heavy activity or spectator needs, so no large parking lots, things like that.
So where would people park?
Well, I think the idea, in concept, would that this park would be a natural kind of feature in the township, but also would attract walkers and cyclists who are normally out in this area and would use this as a nice internal loop. Alternatively, you could park at Township Park and walk down, and maybe there's, in the design of something, some small number of parking spaces that could be vetted off of Powell.
This would be more, Bob, it'd be more like Miller Park that also does not have parking and that is really designed as a neighborhood park. And I think this would actually be more, this would have a greater reach because of its location, because it's on two major roads that are frequented by joggers and bikers or people who just want to take a stroll. I think it would be more accessible than Miller Park.
Yeah, I want to echo that, because you see that sidewalk that parallels Ann Arbor Trail, and that sidewalk to the east, I think, as you both mentioned, does connect to Township Park. It goes right through the entrance, past the golf course. And then on the west terminus at Beck Road, there is right now a crossing that goes to the west side of Beck, and the sidewalk goes north as you're moving the arrow. Then, right, on the south side, there's a sidewalk that goes all the way down Beck almost to Joy.
Yep.
And with a small improvement in that crossing across Ann Arbor Trail, you'd really connect the dots on the northeast and the southeast intersection there. So I can see people walking and riding their bikes because it's very accessible because of these pre-existing sidewalks. So I think, I'm sure we're going to get into this more, but I'm really enthusiastic about this idea because I think it hits a lot of buttons that need to be hit.
Yeah, one of the challenges, and it's a little bit out of scope for tonight, is that the sidewalk, though, ends at Township Park.
Yeah.
So to get to downtown Plymouth from the west side of the township, you have to actually go into the street for this period, or this distance here. And there's gaps here in the sidewalk.
Well, there's access off Glenview to the park.
Right, you'd have to go into the park and then go through off of Glenview, correct?
But obviously, the sidewalk gap program is underway right now on North Territorial, but we recognize that we have other longstanding gap issues that we need to address. And I know that we did have some interest on Ann Arbor Trail from the residents on the north side, and I think that is still a possibility for the future. We had, I think, most of the residents on the north side in that area were supportive of sidewalks, but we did have a couple holdouts, and it did slow us down this year. We'll try again next year.
Well, the south side may end up with, if that vacant land gets developed, that may end up being the easiest way.
That's right. Right.
So then they've constantly refused, but it's a senior person that's waiting for other things. So.
And I think, Ms. Hall, you referred to the possibility of having some crossings when you were making your presentation on the, recreation plan, or what was that
Right.
a few weeks ago?
Oh, the DDA? The DDA plan?
Yeah, I guess that's what it was, yeah. And how potentially, if you have something on the north side, you may be able to cross to the south side. Happens in other communities. It happens up on 8 Mile, I think it is, between Northville and Novi. So it's not like this can't happen to increase the accessibility. I think Trustee Dershowitz is right that there is this issue, but we can deal with it with proper planning and implementation down the road.
Right, and there's a huge opportunity here really for the neighborhoods to connect. And there's so many studies out there from realtors that show across the nation that when you have walkable communities with park amenities, whether they're passive or active, that within that half mile, the real estate value goes up by like 9 to 23% is usually what they say is the average. So there's potential here as well just to kind of improve that vitality of the community. And the nice thing about, I apologize if this was covered, but the donations from Obasto include a mix of deciduous, evergreen, and ornamental trees. So there's really the potential here to create a nice landscaped entryway with, a lot of variety.
Kurt, can you give some background about where this idea came from?
Well, this is a plot of land that is owned by the township. We've established that. It is technically not part of the golf course. It is an area that I've certainly looked at in the past for potential sale. We did have it appraised in 2017. At that time, the parcel was appraised for approximately $800,000. One of my objectives, which is well known, is it had millages failed, had budgets been busted, had other things gone haywire. This was a valuable piece of land that we could have sold for a substantial price for residential development. I don't think that's necessary at this time. And I've also consulted with the golf course people. They're not thrilled about this concept, to be honest with you. I think they wouldn't mind maybe extending one of that, moving one of those holes out a little bit further, and maybe making that hole along Powell more of a dog leg. But this I think that both the park and the golf course can coexist over time, and I think they'll benefit each other. So it's a plot of land that we don't really have any other use for. We did talk to the golf course about maybe putting a driving range in there. There is evidence that there was a driving range in there many years ago, but we really didn't think that would be conducive for this site. It would more than likely have also involved netting, large netting along Beck Road that I personally just found unattractive. So, and we had all of these free trees coming our way, thanks to Obasto and other projects in the township. So it seemed like the right idea at the time.
Yeah, since I was involved in the Arts, Recreation, and Heritage Committee of the Citizens Council, and then we went through the process of these recreation plans, this memo, their cover memo, hits a lot of the items that were recommended by the public. And we have not had the resources to implement that in Township Park. There was the potential of redeploying the golf course to do achieve some of those purposes. But for now, I think what we've done is tried to see if the golf course could at least break even in the short term. And maybe there's a longer term plan for that or vision for that. But in the meantime, it's just sitting there. I go by there every single day, it seems like, and it's just a grassy lawn without any real purpose. Other than driving by today, I did see somebody walking their dog on the south side of Powell. So in a sense, it's already got some canine purposes to it. But I like the idea that the supervisors brought up, because it hits a lot of these items that people have said we should do, and it takes an asset that's public, that's not being used, and it redeploys it for that purpose. So, and we have this donation of 150 trees, so we don't have to pay for the trees to do it. So it just seems like it's one of those win-win ideas.
And the,
I guess my concern on the con side of it would be, once you turn this into a park and you plant 150 trees, you've lost any future opportunity for that land. We could never reconfigure the golf course. We couldn't sell it off for development without having removed those trees. So, and I'm just not convinced that there will be much use for this. I mean, we have a park 200 yards down the road with parking, with walking trails, with pavilions, with toys to play for the kids. So I'm not convinced that people are going to make this a destination, whether they're walking or biking, to sit at a picnic table. I would prefer to do nothing. Sometimes doing nothing is the better approach than investing in something that might not get a lot of use, my opinion.
No, that's fair. And I want to stress, though, that we're not planning to put 150 trees in this small triangle. That just that we have an abundance of free trees available to us over the next several years. What I would like to see before any final decisions are made, Laura, would be for you to round up people at U of M or MSU and well, preferably U of M.
How much money are you talking about?
Well, I think the graduate students would be free, because this would be basically a project for them. I think cost-wise, Bob, down the road would be the installation of paths and other park facilities are going to have a cost. I think if we do anything with that forested area there, to help to clear that out a little bit, I want to keep it forested, but we've got to make it accessible. There's going to be cost involved. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but that would be a plan for a grant. There's lots of grants out there. I think this is a great project for the Environmental Leadership Commission, again, to help us look for grant opportunities or sponsorship opportunities that could be available.
But how much?
Well, we haven't placed that out yet. We got to do the study. We got to see what's out there. Laura? Oh.
I was just going to say that the township and the joint City of Plymouth Recreation Plan does mention additional green space and walking paths as desired by the community. And this particular parcel is along a marked bike route from Ann Arbor to Hines, both by SEMCOG and Wayne County. So this is already kind of a stopping point, if you will, along that larger cycling network.
All right, I have a couple of questions. You answered the one about budget, which is to be determined. In the plan, Laura, we need to also consider reopening the access from Ann Arbor Trail to the point of that park where the golf course is. It's good for marketing of the golf course, and also Powell Road. If you have a park here, entering there would be better to be able to park on Powell Road. So I'd like that considered. The grasses that some people think were planted, there was a bunch of that far west end along the edge of the wooded area is a bunch of trash, dirt, fill that was put in 20 years ago, and now weeds have grown on top of it. And the trees, you can see the trees there along the west end. Maybe we could start right now by salvaging those trees and trying to get them to grow. They're the ones that have been girdled and neglected, and were planted with township money years ago. Some of them are almost 10 years old and they're stunted. And the other thing is, I'd like you to consider, if you're going to do a park, I'm not totally sold on the park idea yet, but is to have some open play space where you can have unstructured play and not all tree covered or bench covered or art covered. We need to have some open space.
Yeah, these trees were planted some time ago, and they're just scrawny.
Well, it's because they've been girdled repeatedly by the weed whipper.
Yeah, if you go south, you'll see one that's at a 45-degree angle. It's leaning toward the North Pole.
Hang on, I went
couple of them have been
I went
hit
on
by,
a little trip here.
they've been hit by cars over the years.
Yeah.
I'm going to get hit by a car.
So I've made repeated attempts, and I've showed them how they can protect them with a piece of corrugated pipe, but the directors and the park operators have refused to listen for years. So maybe we could do that now. And that way it's mistake-proof from a weed whipper.
So there's a poor bicyclist in the middle of the street. That's all.
Yeah, I just want to say I respect the treasurer's point of view on the possibility of this down the road being something that you might want to alienate. In fact, they're right behind the fire plug. There's the tree that's pointing.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
But when we went through the process of looking at what to do with the golf course in Township Park, we had virtually unanimity on the part of the public not to sell this piece of property. This is before the millage last November. So to me, it's another example of how we would be responsive to what the public has said, which is do not get rid of this asset. And so you would make it useful. And that's
Yeah,
what I
but
think
going
a
back
board
to
has to
the-
do.
Going back to the survey that we did in 2017 with what people are looking for, and I went back and looked at the results survey, nobody said we need another park.
But if you look at our recreation survey, our recreation master plan, there's that poor tree. If you look at our recreation master plan, we do, green space is prominently featured in that document, and the need for open space, the need for green space, the need for recreational space, which we are now, fairly landlocked at this point,
What is the drawing that we got from the golf course consultant? Was this in that concept drawing?
Yeah.
So that would be something to start with, Laura. Have you seen
This
it?
is where the art museum.
Well, this was where there was a plan for an art museum, a history museum, fountains, all sorts of stuff. And I mean, I just, I think we need to take a fresh look at the triangle parcel as a passive neighborhood green space asset.
Yeah, at this point, this is just the very infancy of the discussion. There's so many unknowns about this parcel, and going through the exercise of some U of M grad students where there seems to be interest, having them present ideas to the board, I think will help us fine-tune that discussion.
Hopefully they look at it with eyes of what we have today and what things look like today. I agree with Mark. I'm very concerned about parking, as Bob mentioned. Guess what? Where are you going to park? Oh, you said they can go park in Township Park. There's no dogs allowed in Township Park. So now I bring in the dogs into Township Park. We already have a problem there.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, they park on the grass today. They do all that other stuff and cut through. I got a problem then, too. And who's going to be the keeper of this park?
I tell you what,
More money.
I am completely, I'm not a dog owner, but I'm completely willing to revisit the whole policy about dogs in Township Park. That was,
At least
done a
where
long
the dogs go. They cannot be in the playscape,
yeah,
and they are today.
they are.
Yeah. I've been 3 weekends in a row and seen the dogs out there in the playscape.
I think we should have that discussion. And again, I laid out the possibility of a dog-friendly park just because that is something that people do want. And I think a dog park, the way I have seen them constructed in other communities, is not the kind of visual that you want at this corner. That would
Just
not
having
be
dog
appealing.
Talking about a
access
dog
and
run.
allowability is
Yeah.
better than
Leashed.
a fenced park.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
if you're jogging with your dog, if you just want to take them out for a quick walk, this might be the place to do it. Something to think
As opposed
about.
Like a fenced-in dog run.
Fenced-in dog runs are, everybody wants them, but they're difficult to maintain. They're high maintenance. There's liability issues that people don't think
Wayne
about.
County Dog Park, it's
Um,
3 miles down Hines
There's
Drive.
one
and
in
you can go.
Northville. There's one in Livonia. So there's opportunities like that.
No, I'm certainly not
But-
opposed to studying this further.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what we come up with. There's no harm, no cost in studying this.
But like Chuck said, if we start looking at moving the entrance and putting that down, And changing Powell, unfortunately, you can't change Powell because there's a golf course right there. And by the way, I park cars in there, somebody's going to have a problem.
I think there was a problem with the county moving the entrance. I think I lost my place there.
There are, you're
We
just...
were the ones that asked to have it closed.
Yeah.
The county did not want to have it closed. They were resistant to it.
And now the residents don't want it back. Is that something I've heard residents across the
Our
street?
chief lives there. He doesn't want it back.
So we've had issues with the entrance to the golf course over the years. The old entrance, if we were to reopen it, which I don't think the golf course operators would mind, we would need permissions from the county. We'd have to involve the neighborhood. I don't know what neighborhood opposition would look like. And then we also still have line of sight issues that I think the county is going to be very concerned about going in and out of the golf course at the old entrance.
Well, I think they're going to definitely have problems if I'm bringing my golf clubs in and the existing parking lot is filled with people walking, people biking, whatever, and I got to go park in the park and bring my clubs down?
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, I just don't think the Triangle Park is going to attract that kind of.
Well, on one hand, you're saying it's gonna.
Well, but
gotta go both
it's not
ways.
going to be. But if you look at Miller Park, if you look at Brentwood Park, I mean, those are neighborhood parks. This is like a neighborhood park for the people who live around there. But it's also a destination park because, as Laura pointed out, you've got sidewalks, you've got bike routes, you've got people jogging. It's just another amenity of that entire recreational complex, which includes the golf course and Township Park and all the other stuff.
The Township Park right next door to it is filled all the time.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason for why I think you need to seriously look at expanding the park in this direction.
But it's filled with parking.
Right.
There's
So if
plenty
you
of green space still in the park.
if you emphasize connection via sidewalks, walking and biking, if you make that kind of the message that you convey to people, perhaps they won't be driving there to walk. Whereas in Township Park, people do drive there, park, and then walk the loops and so forth. So I
I'm
see
willing to
this
look at it.
as a different type of
I'm
vehicle.
not sold on the idea yet.
Yeah, well, we'll have to do a lot more discussion.
Okay. And that's fine. So that's what we want to do. And then, Laura, how soon do you think, I don't want to hold you to it, but how soon do you think we could get people at U of M looking at this?
I think either this fall, winter, or early spring.
Well, looking at it and having a report or a study done are two different things. So can we get them looking at it in the fall, now?
Yes, well, I think they would want to do it all together. And my preference would definitely be for them to get started on this as soon as possible.
Okay. Because I think this is going to end up like the golf course study that we did with public outreach and charrettes and town halls and all of that.
Public meetings.
Public meetings, yeah. So what we'll do is, we just want to get that process started now so that if we decide to go forward with this, we could at least begin putting some trees down maybe as early as next summer.
Okay, understand.
Okay.
No, don't plant trees in the summer.
Okay. Sorry. Spring, fall. Okay. Any other questions from the board on this? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Right.
The challenge is we can't install sidewalks without an easement from the property owner. And if the property owner says no, there's nothing we can do.
All right, so we need to consider that. You're right.
Okay.
Good idea.
That's something the township engineer will be involved with.
So, Mr. Engineer, we're going to make a note of that. And then, anyway, so, but we recognize the fact that connectivity of all of our sidewalks for jogging, biking, and walking is emerged as one of the top issues in our joint recreation plan that we did with the city a couple years ago. So, and this is part of that effort. So, okay, I'm hearing nothing else from the public at this time. So there is a motion here. If somebody could execute that.
Mr. Supervisor,
Jerry? Yes, Mr. Clerk.
I move to authorize the supervisor to study the conversion of the township-owned property bounded by Beck, Ann Arbor Trail, and Powell Roads to public neighborhood park, subject to final review and approval by the Township Board.
Motion's been made by the clerk. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Dempsey. Does this require a roll call, Jerry, or do you want
Yes.
to do that? Okay, so roll call, please.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Dempsey?
Yes.
And Trustee Hartman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All righty, thank you, Laura. Next is item F4. This is the Colony Farms SAD engineering authorization. Mr. Fellrath and Mr. Zakoff, you want to join him, just in case?
Good evening. What's this on?
It's on. It should be.
Is it on?
No, push the green button. No, you got to push. It should hold the round thing.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight we have a proposed special assessment district for road improvement for the roads inside Colony Farms subdivision. We have a district map included in the packet. Colony Farms is a subdivision located along Joy Road. It's between Beck and Ridge, more or less halfway in between Beck and Ridge, and extends from Joy Road up to Ann Arbor Road. It has, in regard to residential units, it has 141 residential units in this proposed special assessment district, and one parcel in there is a condominium, which is included within the SAD, and that contains 48 units. So 48 units of the 141 units are condo units, and they are included in this special assessment district. So what's before the board tonight is the board is requested to authorize our township consulting engineer to perform preliminary engineering. So this is the preliminary engineering phase, and the objective of preliminary engineering is to come up with a cost estimate for the project. However, and I want to make this note, this is the first project that has come before the board under our revised township special assessment district process. The revised process is included in your packet. It was revised this summer, and I highlighted the revisions to the process. The revisions are few, but they're, in my opinion, more or less significant. So I just want to call out what's changed because it does affect the approval of this phase, the preliminary engineering phase. The first big change, and I think it was initiated by the clerk's office, is that this process now is a two petition step process. In other words, there's two petitions involved throughout the process. There's a preliminary petition and there's a final petition. And the preliminary petition is the petition before us tonight, which demonstrates support for the township to conduct preliminary engineering at no cost to the residents. And that's all what that petition is for
When you say no cost to the residents,
at this point. At
if
this,
it goes forward, it is baked into the cost of the project.
correct. And then you're getting into the second petition. So once preliminary engineering is done and a cost estimate is formulated and distributed to the residents, then a second petition, a final petition, is circulated amongst the residents. And that final petition cites the cost estimate, and that cost estimate includes all costs incurred by the township, including the preliminary engineering cost.
You skipped a bunch of steps in here. Did you do that intentionally?
Well, yeah, I'm just giving you the big overall major revision to the SAD process relative to the historical process. In the past, we just had one petition, and it was like a living petition. People sign on to get preliminary engineering approved, and once they got the cost estimate, if they didn't like it, then they had to come to the clerk's office, cross their name off that one petition. So that petition was alive throughout the entire process. This, I think, is more transparent. It's more straightforward. It's got a preliminary petition for preliminary engineering. Once preliminary engineering is approved, that petition goes away. It's no longer useful. And then once the cost is distributed to everyone, you have this final petition, which establishes the SAD and authorizes final design. The second revision I want to point out pertains to the criteria that's used to demonstrate support on the petition. And that affects tonight. In the past, we had, if you recall, for voting purposes, to demonstrate support of the petition, there was two criteria. There was the signatures on the petition had to demonstrate more than half of the front footage, total front footage of the roadway being approved. And the second criteria, oh, by the way, the front footage criteria, that's what's stated in state law. That's what we have to do in regard to the petition process. And the second criterion that we used to do was the signatures have to represent more than half of the units within the SAD. So now this revised process now just includes what's required under the law, which is the front footage criterion, where the signatures have to represent more than half of the front footage of the public roadway being improved.
So
Patrick,
it
is that-
no longer has to be 51% of the units, so somebody with more frontage gets...
Yes, and I bring that up because tonight's example, if you look at the tally of the petition, we have the signatures represent more than half of the front footage. So that's the criterion that we're using to go forward. In this particular case, we were just under the number of units. But per
Patrick, is
state
that
law,
the-
which is the minimum requirement, we meet the criteria to move forward.
Patrick, is that the way you would charge them? Would be on footage?
No, the methodology for assessment is different. As an township attorney can, the way I understand it, the state law doesn't specify a methodology for assessment. So the assessment methodology that we've been using doesn't change. It's based on a per unit basis.
So
Something doesn't seem right with that. If you're voting on a footage basis, then somebody who theoretically
We're right here, Mark.
has 10 feet, 10
Lot number-
feet on a street versus somebody who has 500 feet on a street. The
Lot
500 feet accounts for 500 votes, but they would be assessed the exact same as a person with 10 feet.
Well, here's an
Yeah.
example of that, Mark. Lot number 6, it has almost 7 times the frontage that lot number 5 does, so they get 7 votes, and lot number 5 only gets 1.
And they get assessed the same amount.
That's the way it's always been done, though. I mean,
thought
we've
we
always
voted-
weighted the front footage more during the voting portion, right? We've
You have to
always
have both
used this.
criteria.
Had to have both.
This was a long established, for 25 years, it worked well. I guess, I don't recall having the board approving this policy.
I don't either.
And in this document, it says policy in the front, but then in the back, there's this box that says it's not meant to change, under you. So there's some contradictory things here. Under you, there's a box.
If I may, it was approved in 2003, because I did look that up before.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking about July this year. Nothing
Oh,
got approved by
correct,
this board.
right. It didn't, right. And well, it's before you tonight. Is
Well,
it?
It's all confusing. And there was a reason that
I'm sorry.
the number
Well,
of
Feel free.
parcels
The-
was a criteria.
The problem we had, and well, I'll have the attorney kick in, was we had people coming and doing one petition, and then all the public had to come, if they didn't like it after the cost was developed, they had to come in and remove their names from the list.
That's called due diligence.
Well, no, because what if the people didn't have some notice, and they were on vacation or some people were complaining about this process and it really isn't fair that they have to come back in. They should know ahead of time what the cost is before they sign a petition.
I don't
I'm
mind the
okay.
two-step process.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that the criteria has changed from number of units to square footage or a
We
linear
never
foot.
It's the state. It's the state. No, it's the state law.
State law is front footage. The Plymouth Township, 25 years ago, added the units thing for an equity situation. Exactly. And we also made adjustments for corner lots because their front footage would be greater than everybody.
I mean, I live on a corner lot, so I get 4 votes, and my neighbor only gets 1. That's not fair.
No, you're not getting 4 votes.
I am, because I have frontage on the
4 times
corner.
the frontage.
No, you don't get to cast 4 votes. You get to sign the petition.
Yeah, but my vote counts 4 times.
The weighting, the weight.
My neighbor literally has 1/4 the frontage of me, so my vote counts 4 times as much as my neighbor's, but my neighbor has to pay the same amount as I do. Good deal for me, bad deal for my neighbor.
And everybody shares in the equity of the road being repaired.
I get that.
Yeah.
But-
Just like in this instance, in this particular instance, the people in the condo association have their own roads that they pay for. They're upset that, hey, I've already paid to have
Well,
my
we have
road.
a precedent for doing that. Let's
Yeah,
go back
but
and look what we did.
We are using that precedent because they have to use the public road in order to access their private road. So the equity is that everyone shares in the benefit of the road being repaired.
Yeah, we get all that, Jerry, but we used to, this is a major policy
Yeah.
change that was made without the even knowledge of the board.
It was made to accommodate Lake Point Village initially, correct?
No,
They're the ones that told me they had a two,
no,
and which was I was surprised to learn.
The Rolling Oaks people came in droves, removing their names from the.
That's okay.
It's okay. The 2-step process, I'm perfectly fine with, but
Yeah.
I don't think you guys should have made this policy change. I mean, this is huge.
Okay,
This is no different than we've done before because even though you used one step, the way it was applied was always the same.
No, 2 steps is okay. The point is you had to have 51% of the number of lots and 51% of the frontage. That has always been the policy since I've
Right, This was
served
done
on
25
this
years
board.
ago.
But this is to provide essentially for the residents, they get a free estimate on what the cost is going to be. Because what Jerry's trying to explain is the problem that the township is having is that people sign a petition for an SAD, and then once the engineers have done their work, they get the bill and they get sticker shock, and then it's a rush on the clerk's office to pull their names off of the list. They're mad. They're yelling at him. They're yelling at Patrick. They're yelling at everybody on the first floor that they can get a hold of because they're mad because the township is telling me I have to spend $5,000 on an SAD and I can't afford it. And
So for step,
No,
so for step 2,
that's the way it's been. And so this affords the residents basically a free, at township expense, they get a free estimate on what this is going to cost. And then the second step then enables them to sign the petition again, the way, I presume, the way it's always been done, so that they can...
Is that presumption correct? Is step 2, you need 50% footage and 50% of the
I
lots?
didn't read it as that.
No, no.
Okay, I see.
We ran with state
Kevin's
law.
shaking his
Go ahead.
head. So.
Okay, what Public Act 188 states is that there's a two-step process. The first step is to determine whether or not the special assessment district will be created. Under Section 3 of that act, it states that for road improvements, what is necessary is record owners of land constituting more than 50% of total frontage upon the road. That is for creation of the district. That's step 1. Step 2 is the apportionment of the roll. Step 2, there is no statutory or case law methodology. What the case law states is it's just got to be equitable. It's presumed to be equitable unless property owners can prove that it is not equitable. What the theory that as I understand it with respect to apportionment of the roll is that all owners within the created special assessment district will derive essentially equal benefit because they will all have equal access to the improvements on the road.
But step 1 is not, state law does not preclude us from having a two-part test, does it?
No.
No.
Does
and we
not.
have for 25 years. And
when you say a two-part test, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. We need to be precise in our terminology here.
Yeah.
When you say the two-step, are you talking about the one step for the engineering assessment?
No.
Frontage
I'm saying
and
that the
units.
criteria for this petition passing, I'm perfectly fine with 2 petitions because I think you're right. People don't know or they're intimidated or whatever. They don't want to come in and remove their name. I'm cool with that. What I'm saying is that the two-part test is that it had to be both 51% over 50% of the frontage and over 50% of the lot owners. Because if one owner owns 51% of the frontage, they win. Even if there's 100 more houses in the neighborhood.
that's what
they
was
win.
put in there for equity balancing.
I understand
Another
your
thing
point.
that this does is double the risk. We used to be 7,000 or 7,500. Now we've doubled it to 14,000 is the amount that the township will risk. And what's happening is, if it's rejected, this is absorbed by the other residents in Plymouth Township, the $14,000. 7,000 used to be considered nominal. I want to hear from the township engineer why it's doubled
Yeah,
from 7,000.
I appreciate that. And I was going to get to that after
Okay.
this revision. Was the so historically, under the preliminary engineering, we had a not to exceed $7,000 to conduct preliminary engineering. That fee was set back in 2002. And I suggested that going forward, because the $7,000 was set back in 2003 and hasn't changed, and I am aware of the tasks that need to be performed for preliminary engineering, and that number, not only has it not changed, it was never a function of the size of the project or the scope of the project. For example, we have an 800-house project looming, and so I had a concern from a technical engineering perspective of telling our consultant to do preliminary engineering for $7,000 when I know one of the tasks, soil borings, alone approaches $5,000. So my intent was, going forward, let's get a cost proposal that outlines what is required of him to do for the specific project at hand. And that's really just, I'm coming from 2 things. Number one, I want to reduce any risk, obviously, of getting, incomplete data or an unreliable estimate. Not saying that's going to happen, but going forward, I think we should reduce that risk as much as we can from an engineering perspective. And also, I know these projects nowadays, we're getting more concrete road projects. And they're difficult. At times, they can be controversial. I think the residents now demand a little bit more information on these projects during this engineering phase in regard to different rehab methodologies. There's several more that pertain to concrete road projects than the asphalt projects that we have been doing. And so if you, that $7,000 doesn't reflect the actual costs, and it doesn't, it's not even a function of the size or the type of work. So it's just a recommendation from an engineering, technical cost, actual cost. If that $7,000 was supposed to represent anything in regard to actual costs, I had a concern about that. It's $7,000 to do preliminary engineering for a 200-house development, when I know soil borings are coming in at around 5,000. So it's up to you. It's just a recommendation. That's why I told OHM to submit to you a cost breakdown. And I know for Rolling Oaks, for example, that failed recently this summer. Again, the geotech work alone was about $5,000.
So the SAD at Rolling Oaks has stopped?
It stopped,
because
correct.
People withdrew their names?
Correct. And I think, and the costs, I'm sure he can attest to the fact of if he provided the receipts and the bills, OHM did have a significant loss on that project.
And I'd like to point out another thing. In the past, in my opinion, and I bet you the township attorney would agree with me, most of these SADs were illegal because they only required one signature in order to get the SAD started.
At one time, the husband and wife could cancel out. So I don't understand what you mean by one.
No, what I'm saying is that's all that was required by the township.
Are you
We
sure?
did.
Because we had cancel out incidents.
I know
going
it
on.
for a fact. And so what we did was we looked at the statute and said, what is the best way to do this? One, we're requiring to get everybody's signature who is an owner, whether it's multiple owners, 3 or 4 people. And so we try to make it mirror what the state law said.
And I'm okay with that too. Here's the point. Of all the things that this board does that impacts residents, this is probably one of the top 5. And you've made a major policy change.
Well, that's not really true because right now,
we're all elected,
no,
and I don't think we should have done that.
no, stop and think about this right now. Right now we've had one petition go out under the new 2-step process. Nothing precludes you from today, right now, from saying that we want to be both for the second one.
Okay, so Lake Point, what have you told the residents there? It's front footage and units or only front footage?
Only front footage in order to get the initial.
That's a significant change without notification of the board.
Only for the initial signature, and they're probably not going to get enough signatures. They're having trouble getting signatures. And so.
Even for the initial free?
Yes.
Then they really don't want to do it. If there's no risk.
So nothing precludes the board right at this moment, right now, because we haven't gone to the part that is where the SAD is created, can say it's both.
Yeah, can I try to figure out one piece of math here? If we turn to page 63 of the packet.
Yep.
Down below. So you've got Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2. And for Roman numeral 1, you show approximately 62% of the frontage owners have signed the petition. And that includes the condo because it has frontage, right? Okay. I don't understand Roman numeral 2 because there are 94 subdivision lots 148 condo units, right? So that's a total of 142 homeowners.
They got
And so,
41 there.
and so you say 50% of 142 is 71 units. I got that. But with 94 residential homeowners outside of the condo and 64 have signed petitions, that's more like 2/3 of all of the subdivision owners have signed the petition. Am I right?
I think I'm following you.
But you're counting.
I think I'm following me too, but I'm not
What's the
sure.
total
Well,
units
the
here?
condo owners have to sign
Yeah.
the petition as well.
Does
They each get a vote.
condo one unit?
No, one unit,
It-
well,
Well,
each condo
let me
owner gets
explain to you how
assigned a
that condo was handled. So if you go back to the district map,
Sorry, where was it again? Page 64?
so that lot number 41 where it says Colony Farm subdivision, it really should say Colony Farms condominium. That's the parcel where the condo units are located. So how we handled that is the front footage of that parcel that's along the public roadway. That total front footage was divided equally among the 48 units. So each unit had an equal front footage. So
of that yellow section along
right,
the main road.
correct,
Which
Yep.
has always been our practice.
correct.
So they
Now
got
this
this
parcel
plus
right
that.
here.
Patrick, they got this plus this divided by 48.
Correct. Yes. That's how the condos were
Okay, so the
treated.
white area.
The white
Thoreau.
area, I believe that's what you're referring to, that there is a subdivision park.
Right.
Now, historically, a park or common area of a subdivision, that's excluded from the total front footage calculation, because it doesn't, it will be included, the cost will be included at the end of the day in the total project cost when everyone gets their equal share. But for the calculation for support, the common area, that doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to the HOA, but that is taken out of the calculation at this point. That's always been handled that way.
So
Can you figure out real quickly of the 48 condo units, how many voted yes?
Yes, if you go back to the tally,
How many? Four people.
4 of the 48, but they will ultimately be charged an equal share.
Yeah, and that, you can see why. And we actually had this come up when Marcia Sales came and spoke about a similar situation. Because the people in the Colony Farm development, the condo association, they have their own road. And they are responsible for it, and they have to repave it.
Recently they did.
And they did. And now they have to pay again for the public roads, Colony Farm Drive, Thoreau, and so forth. So you can see why they're less inclined to do that. But if you look at the map, I'm just trying to figure out the people who own homes, not condos. Isn't that the vast majority? I mean, that's how many units of how many lots are there?
yeah, just take 141 minus 4.
Well, the support. Take how many are in support, how many total units are in support minus the 4, and that's the number.
That's
of
60.
Yeah, so it's heavily weighted towards support from the subdivision owners, and obviously only 4 of 48 in the condos. It kind of gives you a flavor for why it's,
Yeah.
why the numbers are coming out like that.
So it's much higher than 45.4%.
If you just take the subdivision.
Right.
into account. Correct, yeah.
Which,
So it's a high majority of the subdivision lot owners are in support, while a very small portion of the condominium unit
Yeah.
owners are in support.
which makes logical sense. And for those who have their house on Thoreau or Colony Farm Drive, technically, they're not supposed to access the condo road because it's private property.
Right.
So they get no benefit from those people paving that road, theoretically.
Right, but vice
Yeah.
versa, the owners in the condo unit have to access the local public roads to get
Right.
to the main roads.
So
And that's
they
the
do get the
basis for
benefit.
including them in the district.
So Jack, are you arguing that a condo owner and a corner lot owner should be assessed the exact same amount?
No, not necessarily, but I'm looking at how 60 of 90 some lot owners, homeowners, signed this petition. That's powerful evidence that we should respect that and move forward. That's what I'm saying.
But I think, and I don't think anybody is disagreeing with that because state law says that that's the approach that you should take. What we're still arguing is that if that's the way you vote, that's the way you should be assessed for your portion of it. So those condo association owners should only be assessed for their footage on the street divided by 48.
You
period.
heard what Mark said. Is that your understanding, Patrick, and of how they will be assessed later on?
Who's they? I'm
No.
sorry.
No,
Residents,
the
how they will-
township has historically assessed based on units, one benefit per one unit.
Because we've always gotten more than 51% of the unit votes. That's why. I wouldn't be having this discussion if that 45% of the units was 51%. I would say 51% of the people there want it. They each get an equal share of it. But you don't have that.
Well, but I think what we've established by law is to create the SAD, you need more than 50% of the frontage, not the units. That's what the law says. Now, when you go to apportion it, then you have to be equitable. Am I saying that right?
But we're also then undoing 25 years of precedent in Plymouth Township, which included units. That provided a balance for these kinds of situations where, to try to get equity.
Well, I can see how that makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases, but when you have these condos, I'm not sure it makes sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
But that's a one-off. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a one-off.
But the practical matter is that we're seeing SADs that are failing because we're following the traditional path. People are signing the petitions in good faith because they want to see their roads fixed. Then the engineer does their study. The cost comes in much higher than they anticipated. And then it's a rush again to the clerk's office to get their names off the petition. There's bad blood also within the HOAs. I've seen the emails. I get the emails.
I think
We
we've
get the
only
phone
seen-
calls.
Is Rolling Oaks, how many examples do we have of where they've been withdrawn? Rolling Oaks and? Well, that
And there's
was
been others in the
30,000.
past.
Yeah.
There's
And we're-
others that have started.
Well, and we're seeing it
aborted.
unfold. And the first Lake Point attempt was aborted because because everybody, thank God for Facebook, right? Because we had all of the
You're sidestepping my key
No,
point.
no. The point is that people want to have an estimate by a knowledgeable professional on what this is going to cost, and that this gives them that.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with requiring all people that are on the title to requiring the signature of everyone on title. Perfectly fine with a two-step process. What I'm not fine with is you guys made a major policy shift without bringing it
all right.
to the other people on this board that are duly elected.
Okay, here's your opportunity. We thought we were following state law, and so and because of the inequities that were going on before, we were trying to create a more equitable.
But you should have brought that to the board.
It's to the
before you
board right
sent
now.
this out.
Nothing's been done, has it? Has
Yeah,
anything
you
been?
got
No,
two
it
of them.
hasn't.
You created an expectation
no,
in
no.
two associations.
Well, Lake Point has started, hasn't it?
Yes, but it's not. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. When the people realize in this particular instance that you or we as a board want to say now it's got to be 50, it's got to be both for the second petition, that's the rule.
So we're going to change the rules midstream on these
Well, you
two.
can because
But you changed them for two associations. Now you're saying, okay, now we can discuss
that's what these meetings are for. And we were trying to be equitable where it wasn't equitable before. Things were being done.
You're not empowered to do that kind of change it unilaterally, a 25-year policy. So that's beside the point. Let's try to figure out now what the way going forward is.
So
We may not be able to do this all tonight.
So when does
because it's a policy change.
Is it not my understanding that
So
when-
policies after a certain amount of years then have to come back to the board? What's that policy?
This is a
Where's
major
that policy?
change.
Okay,
Wow.
Bob, we get it.
One of the
We
most
get it.
significant
All right,
things
all
we
right,
did.
all right.
Bob,
That-
can I ask
come
you a
on.
question? And I want your
stepped
help.
on
Come
our
on.
toes.
No, I'm not trying to
No.
step on your toes. We're trying
Come
to do
on.
a good job here.
Come on, Bob.
Because it was falling apart
Come
before.
on.
And we're-
You could have, we've had, how many meetings have we
What do you
had
want
where
us,
you
okay,
could
what do you
have
want
brought
us to
this-
do? What do you want us to do,
I
Bob?
want-
You want
I
us to
want
come
this
back
board-
next week and give you a policy that you can vote on?
Yeah.
Because that's
fine.
what we're doing tonight.
That's what. Okay, Bob. Here, I need your help here
Oh.
because I need your help.
Don't-
I'm asking for your help. Is that okay, Bob? When we did this before in the past, when you had 50 and 51, right? You had the 51, 50 over 50% front footage and 51% of the actual homeowners. Then how was it apportioned? Was it apportioned by how big your lot was, or it was divided?
Per unit.
It was divided per unit. So
With
that part has not
accommodations
changed
for-
either. Okay? So all we need to fix, if it's the feeling of the board, is to say, for the second petition, it's got to be the two things like it's always been. That's not a big deal.
I mean, for the second petition.
Well,
Yes.
Gary, here's my problem with that. We're getting ready to spend $15,000.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, not until you vote for it, because the $14,000 is new. That was never $14,000.
No,
Tonight
we're,
we would
we're
be
voting
voting on it.
tonight to approve the
Yeah,
township spending for, it's quiet,
No,
$14,000, and I'm looking at only 45% of the people in this subdivision are on board.
What I'm saying is the $14,000 is brand new. That's never been before the board before. We've only spent seven. This is a brand. I asked him that question today, and I says, "What is the $14,000?" Because it was always seven before. That's before you right now. You can say, "Well, we don't want it to be 14. It's got to be seven."
Okay, so let me approach this another way. In the first round, which we're now going to appropriate $14,000 for a study, we only have 45% of the homeowners on board. If we go the second round and say now we're going to need 51 of you on board, it will fail because there's only 45% of the people on board. And we just spent $15,000 on nothing.
We've always done it that way with the condo association.
No, we haven't.
We've done it the same process.
No, I live in Deer Creek, which has woodlands, and we voted 51% of the homeowners had to approve it.
Including, and each condo was
Each
one.
condo was one.
But Mark, you're making an assumption that the homeowners are not going to approve it because you're assuming that the 45% number is going to stay the same. I think once everybody gets their cost estimate, you may have more people add on. You'll have people who are skeptical right now, who are doubters.
It's an assumption, but I think it's a good one because up front, if I'm a condo owner and I have a little $200,000 condo mixed in with $600,000 homes, I don't want to pay the same amount.
Well,
That's
maybe-
why they voted no on this.
Maybe there's another equitable way of apportioning the cost.
Well, that we have the option of apportioning the cost on the linear footage of the property. If
Right.
and I'll look at it another way. If a condo owner said they were going to be assessed based upon their portion of the linear footage, they probably would have voted yes. But they're voting no because they know they're going to get
Right.
charged an equal share.
I don't know why we're
doing the condo thing the way we did the condo things before. Am I wrong? We did it the same way.
And we got
Yeah.
more
The condos by number of houses.
and we got more than 51% of those.
Right, right. Then we did it by the number of units and the
Speak
and the
up,
front footage.
Pat. I
That's
can't
how
hear
we-
you.
In this particular instance, you just happen to have more, maybe you got more houses than in your subdivision, but it was still apportioned the same way.
Yeah, the apportionment is the second.
I know, but what
You
I'm
keep
saying is-
mixing them up.
is when you've got the total of 148, let's say what it is.
It's 142.
Yeah. And what was it in your sub?
How many total?
Yeah.
Probably 160.
160, and how many were condos?
Probably 30.
Okay. So there you
Speaking to the mic.
You had a larger number of people that could have made the condo people pay more. Because what I think I'm hearing you say is that you want the apportionment to be only for their front footage.
No, if that's the way you're voting, then that's the way you should apportion it. But if you get more than 50% of the votes to approve it, then I'm more than happy to say you can apportion it equally.
The problem with that scenario is you have now given a veto to even studying this to the people in the condo association.
But
Because
I
they
don't-
think they're going to get the same bill as somebody who has the largest lot in the subdivision adjacent to them. I'm going to pay the same amount as that guy. I've already had to pay for my road. Now I'm getting a double whammy. This is exactly what Marcia presented to us. And we said, you know, that's tough. That's the way it is. Is that equitable? She was saying it wasn't. I think she had a valid point.
Which subdivision was this?
It was the condos further up from your, near Fox Hills. I can't remember.
Okay, so if,
So I don't want to give a veto to people because they only have two exits, one onto Colony Farm and one onto Thoreau, to looking at this. I understand how that could be
But you wouldn't really,
anti-democratic.
you wouldn't be giving them a veto because they're only 48 out of 141.
so
There's no way you can get to 50%
You could.
if you think I'm going to get the same bill when this process is all done.
Well, that's why you manage the expectations up front and you let them know that they're going to be apportioned based upon the footage on the street.
And you can do that in the next petition. We can do that tonight.
Well, that's what we have to really talk about. Does that make the most sense? Is it apportioning it based on frontage, not based on the number of units? That would be a change.
There's let me speak to that in a second, but there's 141 units.
142.
why does the
142.
denominator say 141?
Yeah, I know, that's wrong.
Oh, it's a typo. Okay.
48 condos, right? Even if every condo voted no, you could still get 50% if you got 67.3% of the remainder. Yes. I think
So-
I did that right.
That's
Patrick,
true.
in the
That's true.
past, when we had a condo, the unit, let's say that it turns out that it's $5,000 per unit. In the past, did the condos pay the full $5,000 or a portion of that only?
No, I would argue, that's the second question Jack raised. I would argue that each homeowner should get, whether you're at the beginning of the sub, the end of the sub, each homeowner derives equal benefits. So your frontage shouldn't impact your fee, unless, to Mark's point, I got 4 votes and my vote counted 4 times what my neighbors did because I have more frontage. Then I should get billed more because I got 4 votes. He only got 1.
I agree. I think everybody should be apportioned equally because everybody's using those same roads equally. You just got to get the votes. Get the 51% of the homeowners to vote, and I'm all in.
Units.
Right now, in units. Right now, you're only at 45. No, you're not. Go out and get 7 more votes.
Let's get back to in the past, what did we do was there any apportionment? So if it was a $5,000 for a homeowner, what was the condo typically? 5,000 also? It was the same?
In Deer Creek, which we did 2 years ago, was
It's
the
same one.
exact same.
Okay,
Correct.
And here, the proposal is the same thing?
Yes.
That all units, including condo units, would pay the same amount?
That's correct. That hasn't changed.
All right.
Trying to bring this to closure. Patrick, what I'm hearing is that the board is issuing you a recommendation that you go back to the champions for the local HOA or the local champions for this project and require that they get 51% of what? Of
Total units.
Of all the units?
Total units.
Total home units.
So out of 141 or 142, give me 70.
For step one.
Give me
For step
71.
one. And then that will get them the preliminary engineering cost per home, and then they have to come back to the board again for the assessment the determination of the assessment per house, per parcel, based on a formula that we can follow old formula, create new formula, whatever is in compliance with the law, and then we will make that determination at that time. Because we don't have the data. We don't have the data that we need to figure out what the cost per home is going to be. That's why the homeowners want to do this. If it's the desire of the board to achieve 51% unanimity, then they have to go back and round up 5 or 7 more homes.
8.
8. Is there anybody here from Colony Farms? No. So,
One.
okay. Yeah, but you're not a representative of the HOA or anything. Okay. So my point, I mean, is that a solution for now?
Yeah, I will move to postpone this to a future meeting.
Okay, but at the
No,
same
that's
time,
not-
But
no.
at the same time, the amount has gone from 7 to 14. We need to
Can I
talk
just
about
ask
that too.
one point of clarification? I understand we're going to go with the 2 criteria for the first petition. For the second petition, are we using the 2 criteria still?
Yes,
Okay.
unless we change
Well,
it. in
I just wanted
policy.
clarification, that's
Well,
fine.
right. That's,
All right.
to say we're yes, I think is the same kind of premature statement.
Oh,
I think we
okay.
have to look at this again. The current policy that we've followed is the 2-step. So I guess in that sense,
Not 2-step, 2 criteria.
2 criteria,
We've never
right,
used 2-step.
right.
2 criteria.
The 2
units and
criteria
frontage.
is what I meant.
Okay.
Correct. So
So-
that still has yet to be determined.
So rather than tabling this, Patrick, why don't we just instruct you at this point to go back to the HOA and tell them that the Board of Trustees wants 51%
Correct.
in order to trigger the $14,000 engineering study that will then be utilized by the residents to figure out if they want to be part of this SAD. The cost may be prohibitive for most of them, and then the thing will fail.
just
Or they may add more people. They may add more people who have said, oh, okay, I can afford that. And they may join. You'll
Okay.
have more people in the SAD.
Regarding the engineering limit, are we,
14,000?
if we want to still keep it at 7,000 or are we?
Oh, no, I think 7,000 is way too low. I think in this day and age, I think the engineering costs on these projects is
Would you say
High.
2003? Is that when we put the,
2002, I think is what you first
2003
said.
is when it was raised from 5,000 to 7,000.
Well, there hasn't been much inflation since then.
Oh.
Not 100%. But
No, but the projects are different.
There's more that goes into it. You're dealing with concrete construction
yeah.
now. People just don't want, this isn't like a ditch, asphalt road ditch dipping project. I mean, these people want
Yeah.
high-quality roads.
these roads are currently asphalt, correct?
Yeah.
And you're going to switch to concrete? No. Well, that's why I'm confused by that statement.
Well, some SADs, I think you're
No, but I'm
making
talking
a
about
general
this one.
statement.
Oh.
This specific
oh, we're still
one's
trying to determine 7,000 versus 14,000.
So it's an
Kurt's
amount,
idea is,
so it's an amount not to exceed 14,000.
Yeah, I mean, and
This is preliminary engineering.
what Patrick,
Not final, right?
No,
yeah, exactly.
But
And if they go forward with the SAD, then this gets put on their tab.
yeah, they always have to pay for it, and it's about 25% of the total bill, which I think is high. 25% of the, so if you have $1 million job, you have a $250,000 engineering budget, which seems a lot. So I encourage OHM to try to rethink some of that if they're driving the costs up.
no, I mean, we're certainly not driving any costs up. We provided a detailed proposal and scope with an accurate fee
Mhm.
based on market conditions. Like Patrick said, it would depend on the size of the project and the scope of the project. So this is what I would consider a market fee for this size of a project to do preliminary engineering.
So these initial roads lasted 46 years. Are there some major drainage issues there now?
There are some drainage issues we've heard about from the residents.
But
I
you
mean,
got a pretty
on
good
every
record.
site, I mean, we need to do the
46
borings
years?
because we need to know the
Wow.
thickness of the pavement. We need to know the subgrade conditions.
impressive.
In order to engineer it, we need to know those things. And like Patrick said, just the geotechnical portion, that's not even our work, typically is, for a subdivision like this, could be anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000. Just that portion, and we haven't even started our work yet.
Okay.
Um,
I think before we have the continuing discussion on the cost or the cost estimates or anything like that, or your fees, from what I'm hearing from this board is that this board wants you guys to go back to the homeowners association and tell them they need 8 more houses. Or we can't even cross the preliminary engineering threshold. And I don't think you need a motion for that. We're not agreeing to 14,000. We're not agreeing to SAD apportionment. We're just saying that for purposes of equity and fairness, we believe that they need 51%.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is in line what has been previously done. This is not something new we're asking.
I think what's new is the fact that we have this 2-step approach whereby you are getting signatures to do the preliminary engineering, and then you get another bite at the apple. You get a do-over based on the information that you now have on how that's going to impact your bottom line, what that cost is going to be to you.
And I'm in support. I like that approach.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
So is that sufficient direction?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
And then come back when you get 8 more houses.
They'll probably have to be condos.
Next week?
Huh? So they got to knock on doors, and they got to do what the people in Lake Point are doing. They're knocking on doors. It's like a political campaign. They're trying to get the signatures.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to tell Lake Point the same thing. So. Well, that's another story.
I mean, they're not going to understand it?
No, they're not going to get the
Or they're not
signatures.
going to get the signatures? Okay.
They're not going to understand.
All righty. Okay, so we're going to move on to
Okay,
item
go,
F6.
Brembo.
So we just
Go.
Item F5.
Five.
blow past this one, or we just,
Yeah, I mean,
no action taken?
no action taken. We're moving on. So item F5 is the Brembo North America water main easement. Our new engineer, please introduce yourself. Doesn't he have a mic down there? No, you can sit there. We don't force you to stand up like that. Unless we really want to yell at you. But.
Yep. I'm Jeremy Schroet with Spalding to Decker and taking over for Dave Richmond.
You're going to have to speak up.
Yeah, we didn't hear it all.
We can't hear
Oh,
you.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Speak loud.
My name is Jeremy Schroet, and I'm taking over for Dave Richmond. I'm from Spalding to Decker. The current site that we're talking about the easement for was originally constructed in 2007, 2008. Brembo North America is purchasing the building, and during their due diligence, an unrecorded water main easement was discovered on the property. We've located that original easement and reviewed it. It was originally approved by the engineer and the attorney, but was never taken to the board for approval. We've spoken with the new owner. The new owner has signed the revised agreement. Once that agreement is approved by the board and the signatures of the township clerk, attorney, and engineer are obtained, the easement can be recorded with the county through the e-recording.
So the building was previously leased, and now the tenant is buying the building, Brembo?
Correct.
Who are they buying it from? Which was the original owner? If you don't know,
We'll have to get that for you.
Yeah, we'll have to get that for you.
I think wasn't the easement caught by our staff because of our new processes and procedures that we have? Our e-filing and all that?
Yeah, there's a number of other ones that we're going to have to correct.
So it's really just a cleanup matter at this point?
It is, yes.
Okay.
It's not like it wasn't very busy in 2008. It's amazing it got missed.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board or the public? Then I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk?
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-09-10-80, authorize the township clerk, township attorney, and township engineer to sign the water main easement for Brembo North America, Inc., and authorize recording of same.
Second.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba, seconded by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is item F6. This is the employee benefits through the the Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan, also known as MERS. We have Mr. John Wall with us tonight from MERS, who is agreed to come in case employees had any additional questions, or board members for that matter. I don't see any employees here tonight or union representatives. Yes, we have one. Hold on. And so we will take public comment on this item. I know that board members have seen several emails flying around today between Mr. Waugh and Sherry Parmelchuk, and also the head of the Police Officers Union. It seems like those issues were resolved, or at least answered conclusively. Maybe not the answer they were looking for, but I know one of the issues, Mr. Waugh, that you wanted to mention tonight dealt with the issue of allowing individuals to have a loan or to take money out of some of their particular savings accounts, which I personally would not recommend that you do that when you mess with your retirement funds. But I believe that this was one of the issues that was raised by the TPOAM union, and you may have some comments on that tonight.
Be able to take in-service distributions and loans?
The in-service distributions are something that we would be willing to do on a moving forward basis for not just for those two people who are already taking them, but for other employees. So the current plan allows for employees who've met retirement eligibility, which would be at age 65, to start taking distributions from their plan even while they're working. The MERS plan does not normally allow that, but because it is something that's already been negotiated as part of a current contract, our legal department has agreed that we would grandfather that in, with the understanding that our plan would be to allow that in the future through a plan document amendment that is just going to take us a little bit of time to do. So that is okay. The loans, we've always permitted loans. That's never been anything that we've not permitted in either 401A defined contribution or the 457B deferred compensation. It was proposed as a way for employees who are looking to access funds while they're working to be able to do so because they wouldn't be able to take out the in-service distributions. So loans are an option that the township can choose to permit or not permit. It can be allowed within the defined contribution plan, the 457 plan, both or neither. So the past practice has been to not permit loans. So now that we've kind of overcome the in-service distribution hurdle, if the township chooses to not allow loans, that is perfectly acceptable, and we don't have a
So do we have to vote tonight to allow loans?
No.
Nope.
No. That will be decided by myself in consultation with Mr. Waugh, Mr. Matar, and John Clark, our labor attorney, in the next several days, once these resolutions are approved, because these resolutions are the form resolutions that are submitted by MERS that need to ultimately be filled out by myself and the clerk.
But I want to ensure that loans, I want maximum flexibility for our employees so they can make choices. I want loans available, please, and I want in-service.
And that's fine.
That's perfectly
Give people
okay.
the right to choose their destiny.
I have already
It's their money.
I have already indicated that to Ms. Parmelchuk, who is the TPOAM union president. I want to make them happy because, as I have been told, it's their money. And we have a fiduciary duty to them to make sure that they use it as they see fit.
When somebody takes a loan, do they take a loan against a specific fund? Let's say you had half your money in bonds and half in stocks. Are you borrowing against a fund, or are you borrowing against
Total of the-
You'd be borrowing against a portion of your account balance.
of the balance?
Correct.
That
I
would be
believe
a portion.
You can borrow up to 50, I believe it's 50% of your total plan balance.
And whatever you borrow, then those funds are kind of frozen in your account, so they wouldn't continue.
Correct.
to
They're
grow.
essentially liquidated. They're distributed in the form of the loan, and then you repay the loan to yourself with interest to yourself.
Okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what happens, just one more time, because I think this is an issue that people would be concerned with, particularly given the volatility of the stock market in the last couple of years, is if when they transfer from current funds to MERS, there's a period of time when essentially their current funds are liquidated before they are reinvested in MERS. So if the markets move, actually if they went down after you let, well, either way.
If they go down, it's a good
complain.
thing. If they go up, it's a bad thing. It's a crapshoot for a few days that it's just part of the
But
process.
it's a week we're talking here.
Yeah,
Somebody said
roughly a
30
week or
days.
so.
Yeah.
No,
Just a week.
no,
Yeah.
the blackout period is generally going to start usually 7 days before liquidation. Then they would liquidate the assets, convert everything to cash, transfer it over to MERS. We would receive, as soon as we receive a report from the vendor, that would provide us with a breakdown of everybody's accounts, how much money was in each. We would allocate it to everybody's accounts, invest it into the age-appropriate default fund, and the funds out of blackout. Usually from the time we receive the funds and the report, it's about 2 to 3 business days. It just depends on how timely the vendor is at getting us the information. In my experience, both John Hancock and Nationwide are pretty quick and good about getting us the information that we need, so we don't usually run into some major delays.
So is the money transferred in the form of cash, or will it be in a pre-designated by the employee or by a default of where the new funds will be, the money will be invested in new funds in MERS? How is that selected if somebody does nothing?
They would be invested into the age-appropriate retirement strategies or a target date fund as
So this
the
is great
fund
default
default.
then,
Yep.
if somebody forgets
Correct.
or gets distracted.
Yep, and that's a widely accepted default fund for retirement plans. It's going to be placing them into a fund that would be closest to the year that they would turn 65. It's fully diversified. It has stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities. And then from there, they have the option. Once the plan's out of blackout, they can change their investments to whatever they want.
Right away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, with the brokerage option, I know you discourage that maybe, but I would like you to maybe train that a little bit here so that we have some employees that are older that are concerned. They may have a financial advisor that may want them to get into something more customized that's not available from MERS. So the brokerage option gives them full latitude. And I don't think that is completely understood by some employees, that they will have maximum latitude if they open a brokerage account.
Yeah, that's correct. So just to be clear, I have not discouraged participation in the self-directed brokerage account. It is the participant's free will to choose to use that or not. In our experience, not only mine personally, but just within the organization, it is not highly used. But if there are people who are well-trained or using the advice of a financial advisor, they're more than welcome to knock themselves out. They can invest anything that they would like to over $5,000 into that plan. So as long as they have a $5,000 balance in the MERS investment options, anything above that can be invested through the brokerage window as they see fit. Through the education and enrollment process, I will be more than happy to answer questions and address that. And if people want to inquire about it later, they're welcome to do so. I think it might be useful. I took a look at the police department who have MERS defined contribution plan already today. I actually looked at the assets that are in the portfolio. The vast majority are in the target date funds, so the people aren't using other options even within the menu. They're sticking with the default, and there are no assets in the self-directed brokerage account. So whether that's an education thing or just a preference thing, but I thought it was interesting to at least take a look at it so you had some background on it.
So how are you going to handle the nationwide 457 money that is in the fixed interest that only allows the 20% per year distribution?
So the nationwide account does have a fund restriction in which they will only liquidate up to 20% per year. So first and foremost, it's going to require some coordination with the township to ensure that employees are provided with information on that. So I would prepare a letter, probably one that says that the township has chosen to change plans, and that here are some important things and deadlines, dates, and action items that they need to be aware of. One of which would be that they can move their nationwide account 20% per year. So they have the ability to move up to 20% this year out of that nationwide account, and then after the first of the year, they can move an additional 20%. The plan transfer will not occur until after the first of the year. So once we have more dates and times, we'll be able to address that more specifically. So basically, they have the ability to move up to 40% of their fixed account assets out of the plan. It is
So the
important.
move is going to be in the 2019 calendar year.
Pardon me?
The move to MERS will happen in the 2019 calendar year.
The move to MERS will technically happen in 2020 because Nationwide will
How
not
can
move
they get the 2-year benefit?
January 1.
because it's 2019 right now. So before the end of the year, they can voluntarily choose to move 20% out if they wish to.
To some other
And then
nationwide,
To any other nationwide fund, exactly.
okay?
And then
2020.
after the first of the year, they can move an additional 20% out prior to the date of the plan transfer. So as long as they move the money prior to the blackout date, they can move up to 40%.
We're really going to have to work with those employees.
I
so they
have
don't forget that.
every
become
intention to do that.
disappointed and blame others for that.
There will be
situation.
sufficient communication that if they choose to not act, it will be of their own doing. I intend to provide written documentation to active employees. I will explain that to them at the enrollment meetings, and I will also engage former employees. It's also important to note for former employees, they can move 100% of their money out of that nationwide account if they wish.
100%?
100%.
Because we're moving to MERS?
Because they're separated and no longer
Former
with the
employees.
township.
Okay. I thought that the restriction still applied if you were not
No,
working.
the only time the restriction would apply is if they didn't move the money out of the nationwide account prior to the plan transfer. Once the plan transfers, if they leave their money in their nationwide account, it will transfer over once a month for 60 months, beginning in January of the following year.
Yeah, we don't want someone to be in that situation.
So
Okay.
I can tell you, I have done this before with the city of Flat Rock. I had very, very good success with that group through these channels of emails, letters, phone calls, making sure and taking the time necessary to explain the process to them so that they could take action.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board?
Yes.
Do you believe? Yes,
One real quick.
Mr.
So
Kelsey?
MERS becomes the fiduciary?
Correct.
Yes or no?
Yes.
That's good by me.
Okay, so my understanding is even though this contract right now, as it's laying here in front of me, isn't, all the boxes haven't been checked, that doesn't matter?
No, the boxes are checked by me and in some cases you, Jerry.
Okay.
Because we are taking into account what we're voting on tonight are the resolutions that authorize MERS, that provide the framework. But these resolutions provide you with local adjustments that can be made, and we plan on making several. Chuck, I agree with Chuck. I think we need to do that with the for loans and for distributions. There's other local enhancements that these resolutions allow you to make. But they will not be made in a vacuum, and they will be made there. I mean, I've had multiple conversations with Sherry and with other union leaders with their concerns.
Vesting is unchanged from the current plan, right?
We have to follow our contract
Okay.
language.
Yeah,
So
the
unchanged.
vesting would be the same. The contribution structure would be the same. So whatever the employer currently pays in stays unchanged. Whatever employees are required to pay in stays unchanged. It's really just a provider change. It's like, for the most part, it's like changing your health insurance. It's more or less the same type of plan. It's just a different vendor, and there might be a couple of nuances, such as loans, Roth 457 contributions, that you have the ability to make a decision of whether you want to or whether you don't want to allow it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? We do have somebody in the public on this item? Yeah, come forward. We'll need your name and address.
My name's Jeff Fenner. I'm with the Police Officers Union.
The Plymouth Township Police
Plymouth
Officers Union?
Township Police Officers Union.
You're a police officer for Plymouth Township?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I just wanted to come. We wanted to come here today just to say we talked to everybody yesterday, and every single police officer is against this.
Okay, I just want to add that is not what our email exchanges with your union president indicate today. I don't know when you had this vote. I don't know what information you
I
had.
just talked to him.
Pardon me?
Excuse me,
I just
Mr.
talked to him before the meeting.
Okay.
I did speak to the union president just before the meeting. He wasn't able to come here. He did want to communicate that to the board, and that's why Officer Feder is here tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for that information. But we have to act in the best interest of all the employees. And as
Okay.
and
Just want
as
to make our voice known, I guess.
Okay.
I'd like to know a little bit why.
You know,
Why?
I think they had some visits from the deputy clerk over the last couple days.
no, honest to God, we haven't talked to anybody. I mean, this was just we put the information out there to the people in an email. We can send you the emails, and they responded back that
Well,
they
you know,
did not want to do it. They're happy, I guess, where they are.
all right.
The money that's being invested, how it's being invested, now they're happy.
Okay, I've seen the emails between Mr. Waugh and your union president,
Okay.
and the questions have been asked and answered. And in
Yep,
any other
several concerns have been. Absolutely.
yes, and in
Yep.
any other public sector employment situation, the employer would never, you would not even know that something like this is happening. We have given your union representatives every opportunity to participate and learn in this process.
Absolutely. It's 100% your discretion. We understand that, but we understand that maybe we have a voice too, and you guys are obviously going to make the final decision, but we just want to make sure our voice is.
Could we hear what your concerns are?
I mean, I haven't talked to every member, but for the most part, everybody's very happy with where they are right now.
All right,
But
thank you.
One thing is, younger guys like you will benefit by this long term. And I know it's...
Absolutely.
I
And
know
again,
it's
it could be that some people that voted no maybe could be ill-informed. I don't know. I haven't talked to everybody.
Okay, well,
You're bringing us the facts.
we're real
Absolutely.
late in the game here.
Sometimes
What are-
you have lower fees, but
Absolutely.
if you have lower returns, then those offset the lower fees.
Right, but the data probably doesn't support that with the flex you have.
That's right.
Not only the MERS funds, which are ETFs and Target, and then if you really want to be sporting and if you're smooth, you can go to the brokerage fund and buy Vanguard if you want.
You could buy Bitcoin.
Yes.
We also had discussions with your union representatives during the negotiations last year at the table where we described it with the fact that we wanted to go to MERS.
Yeah, I honestly can't speak to that because I wasn't there. He just sent me here today,
Yeah,
and we
okay.
discussed it. So what
Got it,
you
I
had
got
talked
it.
with Jason, I don't know.
So
Okay.
just to make, so I'm clear, you're speaking on behalf of, you don't have any concerns specifically yourself.
Specifically myself, no, because I'm not here to speak specifically to myself, only the group as a whole of the vote that our union president took yesterday. That's it.
And how many people in that group?
How many people? How many police officers?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of a number. I mean, when Jason pulled the group, was it 3, was it 5, was it 20?
I want to say it was almost everybody, but we did not talk to command officers. This is not sergeants. This is not lieutenant. This is just the bottom police officers at the bottom.
Okay.
So it might be 25 people, 20 to 25.
Well, everyone would be important still, but what I'm kind of sensing is we are okay the way it is today.
We're okay with the way it is. I'm not saying that it can't change. I'm saying that maybe the people at the bottom could be misinformed, ill-informed. I don't know.
Well,
But when we talked
uninformed.
to the people and we gave them the facts that we had,
Well, and that's
almost all of them came back at the bottom
Okay,
and
well.
said, "We're happy where we are. Leave us alone."
Okay, I don't know what facts they had or didn't have, so thank you. Thank you anyway.
But I'm glad to hear, that's part of the communication. So I'm glad you came to tell us.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's at the 11.5 hour.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay.
Well, I would like to make a comment. I am 100% in favor of this. I've had discussions with a number of the police officers, and I've expressed my opinion on how basically they have been screwed over the last 20 years in their current system. They've been the funds have been underperforming with relation to the market. They've been overcharged with respect to the funds. They would be much better off had they been in this MERS system for the last 5, 10, 20 years. I've tried to express the fact that I strongly believe that this is a better system for them. Having said that, right, they voted that they didn't want to move. This has nothing to do with the township. This has everything to do with the employees. Even though I disagree with their opinion and their vote, I have to respect it. So, so I'm going to vote no for this unless we can agree that we can give them more education, because I still think this is the right thing to do, and I still think we can turn them. But I don't feel comfortable saying to 20 police officers, you don't know what you're talking about, we're going to change it against your wishes.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board?
Well, yes. So are you going to vote against all the resolutions and therefore?
My recommendation would be to postpone this and give it some more time.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will not support that, and I'm very disappointed that you would suggest something like that, Mark. We have been debating this issue. We have been discussing this issue with our employees since we came into this office.
And this is, at the end of the day, this is a benefit for the employees. And if they don't want to move, I think we ought to make sure that they understand the reasons why they should move and give them another opportunity.
No, I'm sorry, Mark. With all due respect, we have had multiple meetings with the employee union heads. These are unionized employees. We have met with the non-union employees. This has been going on for over a year in terms of meetings. None of these meetings were necessary. They're not required. Any other public sector employment situation
or private.
Or private, we would be doing this unilaterally with no input whatsoever. I believe for anybody to come here at the 0 hour and try to delay this for another God knows how long because they need more information is it's overkill. Sorry.
I don't know how you could provide more convincing information. It's just really difficult because you're predicting the future. It's a compounding. You're trying to figure out what's happening with the market over the next 25 or 30 years. And we all know that fees do have a significant effect. So that's why I say the younger guys should really like this. Now, I know that the people who are nearing retirement are very apprehensive. Although many of these financial advisors, they're putting on expensive dinners at Fleming's and things like that. People are moving their money to them after they've retired or just before they're retired to manage it. So,
Mr. Waugh, do you have any other comments at this point?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I can share the two objections that were provided with me today that I think might help shed some light for the rest of you board members who may or may not have gotten through the smorgasbord of emails that went around today. Jason had specifically mentioned to me concerns.
Jason Hayes is the POAM president.
Correct. Jason Hayes specifically mentioned to me concerns about the ability for participants to be able to withdraw money from the deferred compensation plan, which is the nationwide plan, prior to age 59 and a half without penalty. There was some misinformation that somehow they ended up with that MERS did not permit that. That is 100% inaccurate. Once any employee separates from employment, the 457 contributions that were made on a pre-tax basis are 100% theirs to do with what they wish. The only exception to that would be Roth 457 contributions, which to my knowledge are not currently permitted within the plan, but will be or may be allowed moving forward.
You mean you don't have a Roth 457 today?
I do not believe you do, correct. So that was like, oh, I didn't know that. So when the vote was taken, that was one of the major issues.
Excuse me, I just need to clarify that because Mark Clinton and I spent a great deal of time today with Jason Hayes. After you sent that email and clarified that, we said, fine, so you have no problem going forward. And he said, no, this problem with the age came up today. This was before they took the vote.
Okay.
So he said this had nothing to do. He said we didn't even know that until this morning when somebody started this rumor. He said when we took the vote a couple days ago, that wasn't even an issue. I just want to clarify that for the board. There's a lot of uncertainty. I think the officers would be better served to do this, but I don't think they fully understand it.
The union leadership was invited to every single meeting that we had. They attended some, they didn't attend others.
I agree.
And we have to respect the chain of command within the union leadership. I cannot open up town hall meetings every other day for people who want, who have 20 more questions. I think we need to call the question and get moving on this.
Well, I think if it's a good idea now, I think it'll be a good idea in 30 days. So I would like to make a motion that we postpone this until we get more information for the police officers and then make a decision at that point.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to postpone for how long?
30 days.
Okay.
So can we have some discussion on that?
Absolutely.
So in 28 days, when nobody's done anything and they come back and say, I'm still ill-informed.
Then we'll vote again.
To put it 30 more days back and 30 more days?
It's
We're
been-
helping the employees by doing this.
It's been 2 years. It's been 2
And,
years.
You know, that,
It was really longer than
This is
that. We
this is a
started talking
last-ditch
about-
attempt to derail this program because of the politics in this building that surrounds it, and I don't understand it for the life of me. We are doing the best in the best interest of the employees. You are saving money. You have as a flexible or
Yeah, but
more than flexible plan than what you have now.
If they have, I mean, I'm not going to go against the cops. And if they haven't been convinced, then something in the messaging is not getting through.
but we saw the presentation that everything, fees, returns, everything is in their favor.
Something's not getting through.
Oh, Bob,
Or
come on.
somebody is.
Messaging.
Bob, let's, you haven't been in any of these meetings. You have not been part of any of these discussions that we've had with the unions, with the employees, all of the internal meetings that we've had with the employee labor union leadership. It's been unprecedented, unprecedented. You know, it's no good deed goes unpunished, I guess. So it's time to act, and we have to stop the delays. The delays are completely unnecessary, and this is being ginned up for political reasons because somebody doesn't like MERS or somebody's in love with John Hancock, and I can't figure it out.
I find
many
it
days
difficult
does
to believe that somebody would put their own financial future at stake because of some silly little political score.
These are my benefits too, and I'm wholeheartedly
Just could
interested in
be
going with MERS.
Just lack of understanding.
That
I have a question
hasn't been
for-
sold to them. They have. I mean,
I have something for MERS. Is there a minimum number of days that it takes to implement the changeover? You know, for example, is it 30 days from the time you get kicked off? Does it matter what time of the year it is? That kind of a thing.
There's not a minimum number of days. It's really, the speed at which we can go for initial enrollment. We usually do kind of a, excuse me, like a two-pronged approach. So we would do an initial enrollment prior to the first of the year. If that was the intended initial target date was January 2020 to have the plan effective. Each provider has their own kind of timeline as to when they are able to or willing to transfer assets at that time frame. Usually is about 90 days. Nationwide is about 120. So you're looking at a 4-month window between adoption and implementation.
Okay, there's the number. Four months.
Yep.
So my question to you, Mr. Treasurer, would be why not carve out the police officers? Why hold the whole thing up because other employees are willing to go with it?
Because we'd have multiple plans, and in case, it's just, we have,
Administrative nightmare.
yeah.
Long term if we didn't make a change. But for now, if you carve the police officers, patrol officers out and gave them time to be further educated, you can come back and add them in 30 days. That's kind of the flip side to what you're proposing.
I'm not certain that Nationwide will allow you to carve them out and send over a portion of the employees.
No,
But
it's
not happening. It's not happening in 30 days. That's my point.
This is all or nothing.
Yeah, the alternative
So-
would be to ask everybody to individually transfer their money over, which if you want to talk about an individual or an administrative burden, that's a major mess.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to go down that path.
that's just something
Plus,
bound to
plus
go
the
on.
retirees
Oh, yeah,
won't have the
absolutely.
ability to choose. They're going to be stuck where they're at. So, you're still fiduciary for the retirees and former employees as well.
I'm miffed that doing the right thing, people are suspicious of. They think the township is making money on this, or
Yeah,
elected officials are making money. It's not the case.
that's the part. And
That
Well,
shows.
Chuck, that's my point, is that this program is for the employees. The 457 program is money we've taken out of their paychecks and invested on their behalf. And if they're not comfortable yet with the decision, then I'm not comfortable moving forward.
My judgment is they probably won't ever be comfortable with the change.
Yeah.
Because change is difficult, but this change is for their benefit.
In your opinion and in my opinion, they would benefit
For me,
from
it's
it.
more than opinion. We're data-driven. It's data.
So Mark, let me take your argument. So what happens if we have 9 bargaining units in the township? We have 6. We have 6 bargaining units. So if the Patrol Officers Association of Michigan takes a vote at some point and says, we just want to keep it the way it is, then the whole thing will collapse. You're aware of that. Because we are not having carve-outs. We are not going to re-examine this issue for another year. We're not going to open the door for everybody now to come up with another 20 questions and bog this down again. I mean, we've got to call the question here at this point.
Well,
make
we've got
decision.
a motion and a second.
No, I'm just saying, I'm using that in the.
The motion is to table, correct?
The motion is to table. It's been motioned and seconded.
Not
We're
table,
having-
postpone.
No, postpone, not table.
We're having discussion.
Postpone for 30 days.
We're having discussion.
What
on
happens?
this.
So what happens during that 30 days? Are we going to have a universal vote of all the employees? Are we going to bring Mr. Are we going to bring MERS back again?
And if one person says no, we're going to just walk
Obviously,
away.
you haven't done a good job selling it.
Mark, Bob, I'm insulted by that. I really
Well,
am.
you're
You
the
know,
smart
maybe
guy
you
in
should,
the room here,
maybe you
sir.
should
You
maybe
can
show
figure
up
it
at
out.
Township Hall once in a while and do your job. You know, you'd find out there's a lot going on here.
Well,
We've had a hell of a lot of meetings. No, I'm insulted by that. We've had a hell of a lot of meetings with the employees, meetings that we didn't even have to have. Meetings that we didn't have to have. When I worked for the state of Michigan, my retirement plan was switched twice. All I got was a letter in the mail, okay? So we have been over backwards for the employees. It's unprecedented. And you know, and for the POAM, you were invited to all the meetings, your union representatives, who we have to deal with, because these are terms and conditions of employment. They were at most of those meetings, but they weren't at all of them. Not everybody attended, okay? What do you want me to do? Hold a meeting at 3 a.m. so we can have the night shift on there? It's absurd. We are at the point of absurdity on this issue.
And one thing we keep
We're going to keep
overlooking
going
is
around and around and around and around. You know,
MERS becomes a fiduciary here. Right now, it's seven of us sitting up here as fiduciaries for all these
but
funds right now.
technically, you're protected by John Hancock. And Nationwide.
Technically, you are.
They're not going to sue Chuck Kermy because
But if one of these guys,
Well, Mr.
stock
Waugh?
market goes down,
Mr. Waugh, do you have something to say on that?
The employer is actually the fiduciary for the plan. John Hancock is purely a provider for you.
Exactly.
So it's the fiduciary responsibility.
So
for
they
the
might
board.
want to sue me if they lost $1 million of the bad investment.
They could file a suit for charging excessive fees over a long period of time, yeah.
Well, that's happened before. Other
Yes.
employee groups have done that. Not here,
Mhm.
but in other areas, other
The POAM could do that. The International Firefighters Union could do it. So the firefighters, they want to go to MERS. So how come, you know, do they get a vote now too, or are we just going to do this because one bargaining unit has got bum information and they're not happy at 9:35 at night? I think it's time to call the question, folks. So
Okay, so what are you going to vote on?
Well, I guess
so what's the motion?
I could
The
see-
motion was that we postpone for 30 days, was that it?
What happens during that 30 days? I'm intrigued.
Well, I think we could do a couple things. We could give the POAM more education, give them more time to digest this to see if this is the right decision. And to be honest, I don't think it's a problem to go to a complete vote of the employees. At the end of the day, everybody should have a say in how their money is treated. It's not a board decision. It's an
Whoa.
employee decision what we do with their money.
No, not true. It's a board decision.
Why?
It's upside down. Because we are the current fiduciary,
exactly.
and we determine the employee benefits level, not the employees.
How their money is invested?
We're not talking about no. We're not deciding how it's going to be invested. They can decide completely. In fact, I'd make the case that if someone picks the brokerage option, they have more opportunity to select. They could buy a triple inverse ETF on the S&P 500 in their brokerage account.
How is that?
Right?
We're not arguing,
Bitcoin.
at least I'm not arguing that this is the right thing to do. In my opinion, this is 100% the right thing to do.
Kevin's right.
What I am arguing is if it's a good idea now, it'll be a good idea in a month to get everybody on board, and then we don't have to deal with the fallout of the biggest union that we have being against moving over to this plan.
But I think what will happen is, like what you
Are
proposed,
they going to
have
sue
an
us? Are they going to sue
employee,
us?
Vote. This will spin out of control into a chaotic thing. I tried to get people to start thinking about this when Richard Rayum was in office, and no one would even consider it, and you'd have to wonder why, because it didn't make sense.
Because
It
most
ma-
people
makes
get,
sense to do something.
most people that manage their own broker accounts get clobbered.
Right.
Well,
You're conflating issues.
Yeah.
let me just say, I could see delaying this 2 weeks and voting on it on the 24th, and have 2 weeks to have further discussions with the police officers. A lot of respect for them, cops on the street. 30 days seems long, and what you're not factoring in is the other employees seem 100% comfortable with this. So why delay it? Because one unit of employees is fine with the way things are. So I could see 2 weeks to come back and put it on the agenda and vote, and hopefully there's been education in the meantime. But 30 days doesn't seem like it's appropriate for the other employees.
Mr. Waugh, any other comments on that?
I have just something food for thought suggestion. There's 3 plans you were choosing to make a decision on, or that were on the agenda tonight. The defined contribution plan with John Hancock, to my knowledge, does not have any public safety officers in it. And the ICMA is a retiree health savings that we've explained significant differences on. Those are perhaps 2 items you
So
can
again, the
decide on.
ICMA has what?
Has the retiree health savings account, the post-employment health care account, in which they have every employee gets a primary and contingent beneficiary beyond spouse and dependents. Those are 2 decisions that are not being disputed at this point. I believe the only concerns with the nationwide 457 account. So, it may be 2 items you can act on today. If you want to wait 2 weeks, again, that's entirely up to the board.
Jack, do you know that for a fact that they're the only employees that have had a challenge with it? Do you know, Chuck?
Well, what do you mean by that? I don't understand
you
your
said
question.
that
This is
only
their
that-
opportunity to come speak, and one has come and said, we're fine the way things are. Everybody else has not shown up. They were here. They were part of the study session, and I haven't gotten any emails. I have no voicemails, no phone calls from... Oh, here we go. Here's the phone call. So that's what I'm saying.
John.
Silence to me is golden, and it makes, it's profound.
Okay.
If all 6 groups were here tonight saying we were not comfortable with this, that'd be a different scenario, totally. So you're saying we could go ahead with 2 of these 6 resolutions?
There are 3 plans. There's the defined contribution, which is the 401A. That's a John Hancock. There is the nationwide 457. That is the one that I believe is at issue. And then there's the ICMA retiree health savings plan that would be transferring over to MERS as well. So there's 3 separate plans. All 3 were on the agenda for discussion to transfer. If there's only one objection, perhaps we move forward with those 2 and I guess wait 2 weeks.
But only
to talk about it.
POAM members are nationwide. They're not in the other 2 plans, I think is what.
Say again?
Only the POAM members are in nationwide. They're not in the other 2 plans.
Okay.
Correct?
I believe this should be an all or nothing approach. I don't want to do this piecemeal.
We got to keep it simple with no mistakes.
I do not believe in doing this haphazardly. I think these should be done all at once or not at all. And if it's not at all, I go to sleep very well tonight. You know why? Because I've done my due diligence for the taxpayers of Plymouth Township, and more importantly, in this case, for the employees. And I believe that these plans that have been researched thoroughly and have been shared thoroughly with the employees in this town are the best plans for them. It represents the best value, and it's going to put more money in their pocket when they go to retire. And I'm urging a no vote on this motion, and I'm urging
Motion to postpone.
on this motion to postpone, and I'm urging a yes vote on all of these resolutions tonight because we have done our homework. We have done right by the employees, and they deserve this, and they deserve us to do the right thing and stop dilly-dallying for another year, 2 years, or whatever it's going to be.
Call a vote.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to go on record that say that the firefighters union has been asking for the township to do this since our previous contract.
I know.
So this has been going on for a long time. And this is something that we feel very strongly for, just because of the fee costs of nationwide is ridiculous.
Because you've done your homework and you know that you get a better deal with MERS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the table. I would like the clerk to take a vote.
Well, we have the motion restated so we understand completely what it is.
The motion is to postpone for 30 days.
You want to change it to 14?
It has to be a friendly.
No, they have to amend it. Is that Mark? You want to amend it? You want to make it 14 days?
Yeah, I will amend the motion to postpone for 14 days.
14 days, or until the 24th, till September 24th.
September 24th meeting.
September 24th?
Correct.
Township meeting.
To September 24th meeting. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Bob already did it.
Okay, well, it's been
Oh,
amended.
second on the amendment.
Second on the amendment. Okay. Okay, so we have the motion on there to postpone for September 24th meeting, made by Clinton, second by Dorshevitz, and I'm going to call the roll. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
No.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
No.
Trustee Heitman.
No.
Clerk Borba. No. Motion does not carry.
Thank you. So for tonight's votes on these items, we have 6 different motions or resolutions that we need to adopt. Given the discussion that we have just had, I would recommend that we do roll call votes on each one of these. It was not my original intent, but I believe we do need to now. I would like to expedite this as much as possible, so I would like the board members to pay close attention to these resolutions as they are read off, and I would request that the clerk take a roll call on each one, and obviously we're going to have to move it along just to, for sake of time. So we now have the first resolution, which is 2019-09-1081. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move to adopt resolution number 2019-09-1081 to approve the MERS Defined Contribution Plan Adoption Agreement and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate the implementation of the plan.
Motion's made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee
I have a
Heitman.
question. Is this the plan that police officers are in or no, that you spoke of?
Well, this is the general idea.
This is the 401A.
The
Yeah.
457 is basically the one that's in this.
The next two.
BOAM.
The next one, 82.
This is the idea of moving it.
Mr. Waugh, do you want to come forward on these?
Which one is which?
The MERS Defined Contribution Plan Adoption Agreement is what?
That is the John Hancock 401A plan, the defined
Thank you.
contribution.
You may just want to stay up there just to
You got
brief
it.
us if necessary. Does that satisfy your question? Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Which one is this?
John
first
Hancock.
one.
John Hancock.
401A defined contribution plan. This is the account that the township contributes to the retirement plan.
The DC plan.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
So policemen contribute to this, right?
No.
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 The policemen are in a MERS defined contribution plan, interestingly enough.
Okay, I'll vote yes on this.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item resolution number 2 is resolution 2019-09-1082. Is there a motion?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move to adopt resolution 2019-09-1082 to approve the MERS Uniform 457 Supplemental Retirement Program resolution and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate the implementation of this plan.
Motion's made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Okay, does he want to say what this is? or-
If we don't have a question, then we
Okay.
can proceed.
Okay.
Okay, so which one
Nationwide.
is this?
Okay,
The
Bob has a
nationwide.
question.
This is the nationwide 457.
457.
Okay.
And what's the difference between Resolution 82 and 83? That's supplemental versus the participants agreement.
401A is the defined contribution plan, which is the actual retirement plan that is tied to a retirement age. A 457 is a voluntary plan in which...
No, I'm sorry, there's two different
Supplemental
resolutions.
versus
One is
participation. Supplemental versus participation.
The resolution adopts the 457 plan. The participation agreement would outline the provisions of the plan, such as Roth loans, et cetera.
Okay.
This is the one the POA on, is that correct?
That's correct.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
I support the police, no.
Please.
Trustee Dempsey.
No.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
No.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
And I support the police, too. I
Yeah,
want
and
the
the
comment.
Academy Awards is not for a few
Yeah.
more months, Bob.
let's go.
Resolution 3 is 2019-09-1083.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-09-1083 to approve the MERS 457 participation agreement and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate the implementation of the plan.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
I support the police, no.
Unbelievable.
And Trustee Dempsey.
So 82 has already been approved. And this is the implementation of 82.
Kind of moved.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
No.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Heitman.
I support the police, yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4, Resolution 4 is Resolution 2019-09-1084. Is there a motion?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-09-1084 to approve the MERS Healthcare Savings Program Uniform Resolution and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate its implementation.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman.
So is there, I have a question. So is this a program that, the plan that police officers are in or no?
Healthcare savings.
I don't believe so unless, I'm not sure if the township has eliminated retiree health care for all employees or if public safety is still eligible for it. They're not in it, so
You're not in it.
thank you.
Ready to take the roll?
Mr.
Yes.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
No.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution number 5 is Resolution 2019-09-1085. Is there a motion?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman?
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-9-10-85 to approve the MERS Healthcare Savings Program Participation Agreement and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate its implementation.
Motion's been made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Any questions? Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is Resolution number 6. This is Resolution 2019-09-1086. Is there a motion?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman?
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-9-10-86, establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals, and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any required documents to effectuate its implementation.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba.
So what is this doing?
This resolution is just the board appointing individuals who are authorized to sign the paperwork necessary for entering into agreements with MERS.
Kurt, do I have your word that you're going to make sure that loans and in-service is on the check, is authorized?
I have made that promise in writing already to the head of the TPOAM union. That's one of the main reasons why she's not here tonight, because she got all of her questions answered, and she had a lot of them, and we got it done to her satisfaction.
I agree, Chair.
So yes, Chuck.
All right.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank
So
you.
if the last one failed, doesn't matter, it would nullify all the previous.
That's true.
We have a lot of blank
Thank you,
documents.
Mr.
I wasn't going to tell you that, so anyway. Okay, thank you very much. Safe travels, wherever you're from. All right, next up is the draft 2020 Township budget. I know the hour is late, but we did submit to you, I did, as required by law, a draft budget to the board on August 27th. Tonight we have what I believe is known as version 4, Jerry. That is correct. And the key points are outlined on your document above. These numbers may not be absolutely dead-on accurate, Mark, but they do reflect what we were working on in the last version of the budget that we were working on. I don't think the numbers are that far out of whack. Again, this is a balanced budget with approximately $844,000.
What was the reason for that? It was a grant that went away that we had last year? Or?
No, it's the budget is less than last year's budget.
The spending isn't less. But didn't we get? Did we have something?
Yeah,
I'm trying to understand what it is.
It's not as much as last year.
We didn't buy we bought a fire truck last year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm looking for some reconciliation.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're not spending as much because we're not buying big time equipment for fire, and we've.
The dispatch center was a huge.
Dispatch
expense.
center.
The fire truck was a huge expense. The ambulance was a huge expense.
Yeah.
Some of the
predominantly fire department expenses that were made in
Are we going to go
2019
through these sections, Mark? Are we going to go through them? Or?
If you want, I mean, like I said, the hour is late. I've also laid out.
Elections are. You got to be kidding me.
Well, hold on. So tonight is just budget overview. We can spend as much or as little time as you want. I'm just trying to hit the highlights, which are listed above. You can read that. September 17th, we have a study session. That will be public safety. Police and fire are well aware of that. You will probably not get those documents in your agenda pack, but they will be provided to you at the meeting because we have a short turnaround. That agenda has to be ready to the clerk by tomorrow. September 24th, budget deliberations. We're going to focus on clerk, on the election budget, because that's a big deal in this budget, and then just other general government issues. October 8th will be budget deliberations with that'll be our public hearing night. I think we can do that, right? Kevin, can we do a public hearing on the budget and then still make revisions afterwards?
No.
Or is that like locked in stone at that point? Yeah, because if we have to, we can move public hearing to October 22nd. But I just thought it would be helpful to have a public hearing on the budget. People can come in if they've got questions. It usually is not a big deal. We'll spend the rest of that night talking about other general government stuff. And then on October 22nd, we can make revisions. We can do wrap-up. We can do as much or as little as you want. And then we would be on schedule for final approval on November 12th. The objective being that I doubt we're going to have a second meeting in November because that will be the week of Thanksgiving. And we've already scheduled only one meeting in December, and I really don't want to wait until December.
So I would make a request that budget discussions be the first thing on the agenda, not the last thing on the agenda.
Okay.
Going forward.
That's fine.
And in the past, I've been able to sit down with the finance director and go through the detail. What's the process this year?
I can go through the detail.
Sit on
with you.
Kurt's lap this year.
Wait a minute. Jack brings up a real good point here. I'm very concerned that we still do not have a finance director, and I'm very concerned that the role of getting a finance director falls with somebody whose budget items have just quadrupled in this budget that you're handing me. I have a concern. Is it worthwhile to say, Jerry, you may have a lot on your plate. Is it something that Mark and Kurt can get involved with
They have,
to do this?
They have been. We've got the ads out there, and it's.
Are you using LinkedIn at all?
Yeah, we're using all kinds of things. We've got Plant Moran helping out, reaching out to people, and something I've been saying before. Just now, all of the cities just finishing up their budgets. So there's a lot of people out there who are in the industry that helps them, and people who do that for those cities that may be looking for other jobs now that their audits are done. So I still think that there's still options out there We've had some good inquiries. We had a person who accepted the job and then turned it down, then reneged. And then we have another person that has said they would take the job, but they want a significant amount more money, like $15,000 more than we were paying Cindy.
No.
And so
Yeah, there's no more money for finance directors
yeah,
here.
and so still think there's qualified people out there to be had. As of to date, as of Friday, the expense that we've been spending on Cindy is still $15,000 under what we would have been paying her as an employee, with benefits and everything else. So we're still okay. We're getting the process done. The work is getting done. Mark's having input. I'm having input. Kurt's having input. And all the information is out here in front of you. And we just have to kind of hash it out and go over. We supplied a cheat sheet of things that were kind of changed here for the projected activity for 19 and for 20 based on the document you have in front of you. And so,
But you understand, the longer this takes, there's more piling it in your area.
Sure.
You have more than enough
But
on your plate.
I think he was just saying he's handling the work okay.
Yeah.
I want a finance director.
But he just said he's handling the work.
I want the finance director, which is part of his job, to do that and to hire a finance director.
And
I shouldn't be looking at
I
a
can't-
budget without a finance director sitting here explaining it to me.
The finance director the person we have contracted, who has been doing the budgets for 4 years now, has helped put this together with the help of each one of the department heads, with input from Mark, input from Kurt, and input from myself. And so the document is a good document. It's got all the elements in it. The adjustments you see here have to do with some fringe benefits and some salary stuff. So it's all here, and this is the process that we did the past couple of years. And so we're running on time right now. I can't create a finance director out of thin air. I can't divine someone to come here. So when the right person comes to us, and then we can make an agreement with the person, then that's great. I mean, if you want to authorize me to pay $15,000 more,
Absolutely not.
So
I want you to authorize these gentlemen to help you do the search.
well, they are helping. I mean,
Okay. All right.
we've got the ads out there. There's not a whole lot more we can do, and we've got I talked with Plant Moran today, and they says, here's what we're finding out in the industry, and how else can I help you?
So what's the position pay?
The position right now,
92?
we've advertised it as 85 to 95.
Plus 15%.
Plus 15. I mean, it's a nice package, and
Through MERS.
and then also Cindy was, when she left, she was making about 92.5, and so we offered a range that was kind of similar to that, and we're trying to find somebody who
Does
had.
Plant Moran say that that's the market rate?
Well, we had a person who accepted at 90, and then reneged, who was a CPA and qualified.
Well,
he took another job.
The thing with that, personally, I think ultimately we're going to have to pay more. If you look at the finance directors in Northville Township, Canton Township, they're making a lot more. One of the candidates that we were looking at from the Grosse Pointe School District was at 112. And this person who accepted the job at 90 was because he was retiring from another school district job and he was getting 50% of his pension. So he was able to supplement that. I doubt we could have gotten him for 90 if it wasn't for that. I think, and it has been a challenge. I mean, it's not like these resources are growing on trees, and sometimes you got to look at the market and say you got to pay what you got to pay.
And you've got almost full employment out there. I mean, you got people who are working at their jobs making more money. So we may have to pay more money.
But if you want that, Jerry, then you got to rebid it. Then we've got to re-advertise.
Well, at this point, I knew that I had people who didn't want to pay more. So I thought we'd look at the range we were paying, and if the board wants to say we want to pay more than $100,000, I can advertise it that way.
Well, I mean, we did interview
several people.
And I think we could still get that one. There is still one person who I think would take the job, but.
But she
I mean,
wants 112.
No, I'm talking, there was another woman that we interviewed.
Yeah, be careful what you say in here because
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
This is part of your
So
negotiation.
at any rate, if you want to go out for bid again, but you gotta, I don't even know if it's posted out there right now.
It
I mean,
is.
we got to
It's on.
repost it, then you got to repost it with a higher number. But again, it's going to be, I don't know, good luck. I mean, I feel like we're kind of working without a net here sometimes, and it's not,
Well,
a great feeling.
This board is a good brain trust. We've done this for our third year now, and I think we've done a good job of looking this stuff over and putting it together. And we still have that a person in contract still helping us with it, and we have a good support staff of 2 other accountants who are pounding all the numbers with her supervision. And so we're still in a very good place for this. Do we need one? Yes. I can't divine one. If you want to authorize me to pay more, I'm happy to do that.
Well, what about, Cindy was what was her title before she was promoted?
She was like a head accountant.
Manager.
She was,
Manager?
yeah.
Finance
What about
I think
hiring
she was-
a manager and then letting them grow into that position, over time?
But the 2 women who we currently have are
Are part-time.
part-timers, and they don't want to be full-time.
And we were trying to accommodate the board's wishes to use part-time people when we can. And I think this will work with the 2 part-time people we have that are accountants, and a full-time director would be ample to handle this work.
I think Gary, in an ideal world, it would have been great to get a finance director on board at the beginning of the budget process, because that's where you learn the business, is meeting with the department heads and developing the budget. That didn't happen. Having said that, this is a pretty solid budget. It's going to go through a couple iterations. It's going to take some tweaks. But I'll just give you the highlights here. I mean, we're putting $122,000 to the bottom line in this budget.
Yeah.
And with that, we're putting $1 million aside for OPEB trust. We're putting $190,000 towards reducing the debt at the golf course. We're reserving, as Jack has requested, $350,000 of surplus for future obligations in OPEBs and trusts. We're putting $150,000 into a building fund for future renovations, et cetera. So, I mean,
But my concern is, I don't want somebody whose budget's going up 40% that has responsibility for this, that's not hiring
Gary,
somebody.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Jerry will
it's-
be in the
it's
hot
no-
seat in
I'm
2
going to
weeks
be on
to
the hot
explain his
seat,
budget.
and I have a great explanation for all that.
Absolutely.
And so you
And
don't.
great recommendations from the elections committee.
Part of it too, everybody, is the history of Plymouth Township. And I love Mark, I trust him. We may not always agree on things, but I don't want to give the appearance to anybody that we're somehow going back to the bad old days when the treasurer was running the show at all levels and basically, put together a budget and said, well, here it is, take it or leave it. I mean, we don't want to give that impression to anybody. Part of the idea of having a finance director was the level of check and balance, independence, a second set of eyes, that the budget is introduced by me, but it is developed in conjunction with the finance director, because it comes out of the clerk's office in consultation with the supervisor and the treasurer. That's how we've done it since we took office. I don't want to give anybody the impression that a finance director is not necessary, or that we are somehow transferring this responsibility over to Mark. Okay.
No, and
this is a
wasn't
collaborative effort.
suggesting that.
But
I trust Mark.
so do I. But I still like the belt and suspenders of having a finance person full-time who
I
is
agree, 100%.
validating what we're doing. I feel like I'm kind of operating with my hand behind my back.
I agree.
And it's and we'll figure it out, but don't expect the kind of level of attention and detail maybe that we've seen in the last couple of years. But we'll get your questions answered, that's for sure, one way or the other. Any other questions tonight on this item?
Okay, I'll send, I just have some minor things that we need to add in, or maybe we could just do them now. For example, we put new roofs on the pavilions in the township. Oh, well, we're not there yet. So
Have we budgeted for new roofs for the
we already did
pavilions?
it. Okay, but we just didn't finish the job. We need to paint the fascia boards that are going to rot
Okay.
if we don't do that. So somebody could,
Yeah, I mean, we
student
can,
could do that.
yeah, I mean, we can work on that. Mark's taking notes, right?
That's a no-brainer, that one.
Yeah.
That's easy.
We just got to find the money. Okay. Any other questions on this for now? We will come back with this again next week with police and fire. Mark, Bob, can I amend your request just for next week, because we do have the HVA people coming in, and I don't want them to have to sit through a, ordeal of a budget presentation. So yeah, because we only have 2 items on the agenda for the study sessions: the HVA contract and the police and fire budgets. So let's get HVA out of here first. I don't want to torture them all night. So, but then the rest of it.
That could be long and drawn out too. So.
Well, yeah, and I want them to get out of here, go home. So, anything else, Mark, that you want to mention on this?
No.
Highlights,
I
lowlights?
think that was a good enough summary
Okay.
for
It is a strong
the day
budget.
one.
No, it's a great budget. It's just, I just don't feel like it's ripe yet,
Ready.
So we should pitch the prior versions we have to not confuse.
The version that's in your agenda pack tonight is the latest version.
And then plus, and the explanation of the cheat sheet
Yeah.
describes some of the
Gotcha.
differences.
Who prepared the cheat sheet?
This was done by
Vicky.
Vicky?
Yeah.
So if we have questions,
With supervision, Mark looked at him, I looked at him, so did Cindy.
okay.
Good.
All right. So we're going to move on to item G, supervisor and trustee comments. I've pretty much told you what we're going to do next week at the study session. It is a special study session, so that has to be posted accordingly. Thank you, sir. Let's see, Bob. Okay. Gary.
No.
Jerry.
No, thank you.
Mark.
All set?
Jack. Chuck.
I've got a handout here. Some of you have seen it. It's from Oakland County, Brooks Patterson.
Yeah.
It explains assessing.
Okay.
And I think we should post that on our website, take off Oakland County, of course, and maybe use it when we mail the Board of Review assessments in March, because it answers a lot of questions. Real estate people should be looking at that also, because they confuse many buyers when it comes to selling a house on what their taxes will be.
Okay. Well, we'll take a look at that. We'll
Does
see.
everybody have one?
This is
Mark, I had given you one yesterday.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of putting that in the website. It's
rather lengthy.
I gave it to the assessor also.
Okay. All right, well, we'll take a look at it. Okay, was that it?
Yeah,
Okay,
Thank you, Chuck.
taxes due this week.
yeah, Saturday. Are we open Saturday for that purpose?
no, it's
Monday,
we're
really.
accepting payments through the end of the day Monday.
All right. Hey, public, don't leave yet. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No.
Lining up.
Cooking.
Elections?
2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, stay tuned, because that will happen on the 24th. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Supervisor,
Well,
I
Mr.
move we adjourn at 10:03 PM.
Motion's made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second? Second by Clerk Vorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.